What's up, y'all? It's your boy Aniki coming at you. I think I'm live. And it's taking longer to load than usual. Well, assuming we're live, welcome. If we're just going live, welcome. Merry Christmas, everybody, to those who celebrate. Glad that you have decided to stop by today. This one is probably not going to be long, as I'm running under the assumption that most people will be doing things with their families today or in transit, but I still decided to give you a live stream since I'm staying in my hometown. And as you can hear, my daughter's over there in the background making noise. So it is what it is. Hey, what up? I can't believe you've done this. And let me go ahead and set the monetization. No, uh, just having some breakfast. We're gonna get this stream underway. I think I saw somebody like threw something on the TL. I gotta accept the fact that my mute words took me rather far, but sometimes they still fail me because I think I saw a pretty big spoiler for this chapter, which sucks. But that's what I get for getting comfortable after pretty good time of not being too heavily spoiled on anything. But all the same, oh hey, watch forever. I'm used to seeing you on Twitter or only in the comments. I don't know if you're comfortable with your Twitter name being said, so that's why I'm just leaving it at that. But let's see. I'm gonna go ahead and drop this live for a quick Christmas stream. And the next magazine is released on a Monday. So that means either Monday night church or we skip the chapter. Probably we'll see what happens. We will see what happens. But I will try to make sure to actually update you, unlike with the OVA, which I just ended up not doing and didn't say anything about. I apologize for that. Um, But yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything else to cover before we get into it, because I'm sure most of you have already read the chapter and are just waiting for me to get into it. So let me go ahead and make sure anybody who needs certain links have this, and then we will be set. Excuse me, I am sorry you had to hear that. Denzel coming through, Devontae Kemp. Yep. Oh, this chapter has you stumped on the ending of MHA. That's a good thing to read. Hey, Tanisha Greer, Tiger Blaster. What up, Drone? We'll probably be on to play League later, Drone. So also, Drone, go ahead and plug your content if you're still making stuff. I can't remember off the top of my head right now. Well, it's been a while since I've heard you mention any, but Merry Christmas, Tofu and Simon. Merry
Merry
Christmas, y'all.
Christmas.
Hey, Thomas in here. Yes,
Hello.
we did just start, Joseph. I'll go ahead and send you the link too. I haven't even read the chapter yet, but I'm sending the link out because I figure most of us won't have nearly as much time as usual. So,
I am Merry Christmas Eve. Oh my God. Look at
yep.
that.
Isn't it? Let's see, 5:53 p.m. by you?
It's 4:55.
Close.
Yeah, very
Uh,
close.
my computer clock might be off. But,
Maybe.
well, I was guesstimating the time zones, but
For sure, for sure.
all right, diving into the chapter. Mm, 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 mm. Only a bit further to go. Also, make sure you let me know if Viz acts up and doesn't show me a page or something like that.
Yeah, for sure. We'll do.
Only a bit further to go. Then I'll transfer my quirk to Tomura. My other self was likely swallowed up and suppressed, but I can still empower him to wrest back control of that supremely sinister body and mind. Based on what I've observed of Tomura, the other me must have been taken out of commission before he could employ that last-ditch tactic. Victory is still within reach. Control Tomura, steal one for all. Yoichi, without you, it's all for naught. The negatives in life tend to stick in one's memory for so very long. That's why I thwart the futures of others. Yoichi, I want everyone's eyes on me forever. A bit further. And then we see Baby for one and all his
Ugly ass
demonic
child.
baby glory. You still, let's see, in the Oak chapter number 410, farewell all for one. And we see Bakugo near him. You still haven't poofed away yet, huh? The good old blood cough, classic anime blood cough. So cold, no strength left, can't keep standing. Move aside. Aw, reduce to actual just baby cries. Ah. He can't even talk anymore. He's on the verge of birth, which means death. That should be good enough. He'll fade away even without my help. Just being able to keep standing through anything makes you crazy strong. Bringing it back to what he told Kirishima. Yo, that Air Force stomp, the little explosion emphasis for the impact frame on the soles, or not the soles, but the top of the shoes. That was close. Nah, nothing less than absolute victory for me. What? And it says stay back as he uses the bone spur quirk out of his mouth. And he bit the fucking bullet, except in this case, in the best way possible. Bakugo chomps the bone spur and explodes his. First off, exploding bites is wild. Nighty night, all for one. I let my emotions get the better of me. That's not like me at all. No, 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 no. Oh, he's embryonic. See, in the world of All for One is starting to rewind away. The stolen factors returning to their former owners would be a nice bonus for them, but that's not how it works. Oh man, actually reverted to a zygote. Ah, damn it. I really wanted to pull off All Might's standing victory pose. And he's on his back. Izuku, give him hell. Man. Hold up. From
Yep.
having no meaningful dubs against a villain in the entire series, because we don't count those fodder at the invasion.
Or team ups.
Insider House doesn't really count. To, I guess you could count Mummy from like Heroes Rising, but in the manga at least, my boy was not out here whooping ass like he was expected to be. To this.
So, can I say it?
What's up, Joseph?
I can't believe Eri killed all for one.
There's Aries help for the arc, so stop all the terrible theories
Harry
surrounding
top
Aries.
one in the verse. Confirmed.
But no, this is from, as the kids say, Pharaoh Bakugo moment with the chomping of the stuff, reminiscent of when Deku like bit through
Mm-hmm.
all the spires and stuff that were coming out at
The river
the
stack.
PLW. So the callback with Kirishima helping him to go take a step further, to Bakugo actually being willing to, even if he went, wait, no, 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 no. Say like, all right, I don't need to ego this. I already won. I can rest. And then being like, wait, but I don't gotta rest. I can make sure this is done first.
Very
The fact that he
reminiscent
was
of
inspired,
Stain.
the fact that he was inspired by his own advice too.
Mm-hmm.
The stomp is very reminiscent of Stain's back
Mm-hmm.
towards like the end of the Hosu fight, where he like does his speech.
And all for one going out the saddest way. This is what I'm not going. This is what a certain manga series wanted to do with their antagonist.
Yeah. No.
See, I don't really know what series you were talking about, and I'm afraid if I ask, it's gonna start something.
Man, shit was ass. Anyway,
I think I know what you're referring to, and I agree.
a few days before the operation, Shigaraki is bound to strike at the UA campus. Should we allow him to touch down on the ground, we'll find ourselves quite distressed. Because once he's on the ground, we'll be at a huge disadvantage, just like back in Jaku. I've heard the stories. Distressed always with the genius lingo. No, I speak of being united in purpose, in regards to what we seek to protect. We're evacuating the whole area, so do you mean we gotta guard some buildings? We assume the architecture itself will not survive, as our hands will be full enough already, or rather, we set aside much concerns the moment we decided to assign Dobby's battle to Kamino Ward. We act in the hope of saving lives and ensuring a future for all. Mirko, yep, get to the heart of the matter. The issue is Shigaraki's personality, which is in a state of flux. We would prefer the all for one persona, actually, because the domination he seeks requires living subjects to dominate. But if Shigaraki is in the driver's seat, he ain't going to be so merciful. It's Bakugo. And Genus comes through with such strength and hatred brewing within him. His desire for destruction may direct itself toward the very earth. In a world where we emerge victorious and risen back up from dire straits, even if we stood our ground and risen up from dire straits, back up from dire straits, it will all be for nothing without a foundation to stand on. No, what we must protect is, and then we see the evacuation shelter. And then we get the evacuation shelter. We see people looking. No, our home. We farmed that land since my granddad's time. Our homie looks old, so Izuku. I'm not directing my decay over the surface, but rather down, nice and deep. A hefty chunk of Shizuoka Prefecture will be gone in the blink of an eye. I'll take out 378,000 square kilometers of the country itself. Give me a week and there'll be nothing left but sea and sky. Snuffing out any hope of restoration. That's what it means to destroy everything. Let's see. All right, so we get a new vibe for Deku because he's got the broken or the chipped mask on. And he's going by running the second's gear shift, the third's Fajin, and the fourth's danger sense in parallel. I can really go on the offensive, unlike earlier. But I still need a clue on how to stop him for real, and I need it quick. My master's dead. All because I didn't break that kid hard enough, but that's on me. But I'm actually kind of grateful to the guy. He made me stronger, strong enough to adapt to this one's speed. You slashed off my fingers just in time to avoid a touching moment there. But face facts, kiddo. The force Shinomori's been in danger since two. How long can you keep this up? Oof.
God, 2023 ended with a fucking bang with that final page. Oh, Shinomori. Bye-bye.
So Shinomori getting erased is
Well, I don't think it was a race so much as taken.
Yeah, it's either or. Because you can see from like the hole in Shigaraki's hands,
It's like slurping something up.
yeah, it has that all for one effect.
so
So it's either or. I can see it being erased, but I can also see it being stolen. So how
it's
do you
totally
feel?
possible. It's possible that with all the modifications and stuff that he stole it,
Mm-hmm.
but I feel like that should activate the vestige realm on some level. Like it
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't just instantly blink it out. Because one for all is always allowed to use it at least somewhat fight back.
Yes.
But one of the things that, and this will suck for anime onlys, is you remember back in MVA when Reed Astro made his stress corporeal?
Mm-hmm.
So he basically threw a solid ball of stress at Shigaraki, and Shigaraki was decaying that stress,
Mm-hmm.
which means effectively he was, well, it was solidified. He was still decaying a concept.
Mm-hmm.
In that sense, the ability to touch, all for one's ability to touch the quirk factor may have allowed him to just straight up reach in there and decay it. Because if you can't just yeet it away, which I mean, he could very well have just taken it,
Mm-hmm.
but if you can't yeet it, you can delete it. And I mean, we just talked about how he's not spreading decay over the surface, but going deep. So if he's going deeper, as in also going into the Vestitron, but again, he could have just stolen it.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so
Right. So the way I saw it is like that they exemplify or they describe All for One as like a cup with like water in it. Like he
mhm.
couldn't take the cup, but he just reached inside and grabbed one of the something that was inside the cup.
Good
Yeah, he
morning.
scooped out a bit of the water. Good morning.
Yeah.
Yo, Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry
Merry
Christmas.
Christmas.
It's strange because like from what like Horikoshi has left us with a cliffhanger because we don't know what exactly happened. So we are only left with either Danger Sense got decayed alongside Shinomori, it got stolen, or some other like missing piece. Which I'm like, I'm not going to discard and say like, oh, the decay like theory is wrong, or the like it was stolen.
I'm
So
just really excited for all the implications of
Mhm.
that because this is the start of the battle, and
mhm.
quite often this sets the tone for the rest of the fight. So,
Yes.
like, I am that this gives me a good sense of the direction this is going, but I think it's really controversial.
Hmm.
I am sure it will be received negatively at first by quite a few people. Like, well, I mean, that's most of MHA at this point, but still, like, this. If this builds up to Deku losing all his quirks, like, wow, wow.
I don't know how I'd feel about that unless he just left with base one for all. Then I'm kind of
That's
like, that's okay, but
that's
losing
what
all his
I'm
quirks.
thinking.
Yeah, I mean,
So
I
That's actually what I'm thinking, and I kind of hope like we get that middle ground of because I still think that kind of fits because power has never been the point of being a hero.
Hmm.
So I feel like if Deku is left with something after all this, I think that would be nice.
Yes.
But again, a lot is in the execution.
Hmm.
yeah,
Absolutely.
so part of what this, so I guess this is something that we probably could have thought about given one's very interesting like facet of all these quirks, and it's that most of them are eh. And so like if the next quirk that Shigaraki steals is
Probably
smoke
smoke screen.
screen.
Yeah.
See how we all just smoke screen.
I mean, I talked about it in the Discord server. Like all the other quirks are daggers. Like taking them away, that's a huge deal. But smokescreen is that quirk that you can kind of just, boop.
Also, Trippy Manga came through with the super chat that said, "Can he destroy Japan in 7 days? God of destruction." I mean, there's always been this religious undertone. Hey, what up, Nader? Haven't
Hello.
seen you in a while.
Oh yeah, wow.
Welcome. Merry Christmas.
But see, I lost the train of thought. I was so surprised to see a name that I hadn't seen in a long time. I don't think
I
I've
think we
seen
were
Nader
talking
in like a
about
year.
Deku, like
Yeah, you're reading the super
losing the
chat.
quirks. Oh no,
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
it was a super chat.
So like part of what I expect is that some of the quirks that he loses, like for example, does float make Deku's flight easier?
Yes.
Does Deku actually need float to fly?
Not really, but it's a
No.
convenience.
The thing is,
Which
yeah, he would have to kind of still fall and remember the stakes of the fight is the ground. So like the
he would
very
have to
ground they
make
stand on. Like I love the stakes set here, actually. That is so cool of an idea. I mean, I suppose it's also like a logical conclusion, like you can see that coming.
Mhm.
But that's still such a cool thought. It's like, okay, yeah, literally the entire future is at stake. Like the foundation of the future is right there, and you can't destroy that.
As much as I love the stakes, right? Like let's just say hypothetically, like Danger Sense was deleted. There's something like I don't like about that because I want if like Deku loses all his quirks or they all disappear at the end of the series, I would like to have that goodbye. Because like Danger Sense isn't just a quirk, there's a consciousness there. Like Shinomori is within One for All a person, so I would like it if he wasn't erased. Because it's kind
So
of like someone in the chat said, like he never even got to say goodbye.
I
Yeah,
think
no, I
that
think we won't be. I hope we won't be robbed of that stuff. But
I think
Vestige
goodbyes are
Space,
important, but I also think that there has to be, and people are always talking about like war arcs, blah, 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 blah. But I think that specifically having a vestige like Shinomori get deleted gives you that, wait, what? Oh shit.
Yeah.
I
But
mean, it's like quote unquote death in certain other series.
but
But I do think we'll still get Vestige Realm shenanigans, so I'm sure this is not literally it. And that
Shinomori is also the safest one to delete. There is the least amount of lore in reality with Shinomori.
I mean, not the least amount. Technically, we have less with N. All we know is, he's Nana's predecessor. He got, he became the divided one of My Hero Academia. And that's it.
and is
Like,
goaded.
I love it. I
There
love his
was a super,
design.
there was a super chat from Mr. Andrew.
Yes. Which I agree with. I was going to tackle
Okay.
that as well.
But yeah,
Oh,
no.
Mr. Hold on. Yeah, I got to read the super chat. That's
Oh, please.
I can't wait for Danger Sense not to activate because Deku is not trying to hurt him. Then when he decides no more saving, we get a ton of lightning. No, yes,
Mm-hmm.
Right?
I
No, that's a really good quirk to steal for like thematic stuff. Like we already saw that with Deku versus 1A, so definitely feel like that's happening again here.
But I also think take this back to like Deku versus Nagant, right? Like Nagant had feelings like conflicting feelings about Deku because she didn't want to kill him, but because she was shooting bullets at him, that was activating danger sense. And in order for Deku to figure out a way to take down Shigaraki, and ensure he doesn't die, he has to do some type of damage. So I don't know if that will classify as malice or not. So I
Well,
am curious about that.
Oh, don't
the
forget
thing
during
is, I would say look at how like the attitude like Deku expressed when fighting the Melvin versus the attitude that he
Yes.
seems to be conveying here. There's a different, like, for lack of a better term off the top of my head, there's a different aura
Hmm.
to how Deku was handling this fight versus the way he was fighting and like the way he came off when he was fighting the Melvin.
Hmm. Absolutely.
Like, obviously, part of it is, the context, but like, and I say this a lot, like, Deku does not use Air Force as much as he probably could get away with.
Hmm.
And so, like, he managed to slice Shigaraki's thing here. He could have, like, when he was using Black Whips, he probably could have just been like, pop, 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 pop. And even if it's not a lot of damage, it's still damage that he could have just been firing off
Yeah.
just to kind of, blast off some of the pieces and kind of put that body into work. Because even, like, we saw, like, just because you have high speed regeneration doesn't mean your body doesn't eventually get exhausted from constantly doing all this stuff.
Hmm.
So, like,
also remember, oh sorry,
no,
but
go ahead.
remember, back before he got Air Force, All Might warned him about relying too much on a support item. Danger Sense is very much a support quirk that he relied on constantly, so he fell into that same trap.
Yeah, for sure. Because I definitely see like Danger Sense not going off because of Deku's drive to, save him. But I also would like to consider like the possibility that it may still go off. I still think like the former is way more interesting because number one, it's not really a dagger to Shigaraki in a way.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't need danger sense. He's faster and stronger. So Deku needs to think outside the box now. He can't just rely on danger sense like Joseph has mentioned because like he said, support quirk.
And that's why something like Smoke getting taken is good. It's primarily support.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the main three that he can't really afford to lose are Gear Shift, Fajin,
Black Web.
and Black Whip. Like, he can kind of cope with losing the other ones. And even Fajin, I would argue he could technically afford to lose. He would just have to play this way smarter than. Which I think
Yes.
also the series has hinted at Deku losing, like, have like the risk of losing his arm,
Yes.
and him instead getting multiple quirks stolen is a different balancing lever for that. So, like, if Deku gets to keep his, like, let's say the editors is like, that's a little too grim. We can't have him walking around with one arm at the end of the series. That's a little too eh. And he's like,
Mm-hmm.
all right, well, what about for a compromise? We take some of these quirks away,
Yeah.
something like that. Like, because we know that editors can propose changes. We know that sometimes they can be like, don't do that.
I
Don't
also
don't
think
do
like
that.
if he loses flows, that also means it opens up a Shigaraki and Nana talk
Yep.
like during the chapter. I think that is so like I'm really interested because the last time they talked was in Deku's vestige realm, and he was like, you know what, grandmother, fuck you, I don't care about you. So I can't wait to see them like run that back, and Nana actually try to appeal to him.
Yeah. So, and we have little reason to believe Bakugo's getting up. So this is very much looking like we're staying in 1v1 territory.
Which
This
it should, if you
also,
ask me.
Yeah, absolutely.
if we're honest, the whole point of what Class 1A said was like, we'll do the stuff that you don't have time to handle.
Yes.
This battle has gone beyond the scope of them getting involved and it being of any use. The most we're getting out of this is like out of them joining is Momo being like, here, catch.
Care package.
Something like that. But if they actually try to square up with this man,
I don't know if that's possible because at this point we have seen Shigaraki can keep up with a gear shifted Deku.
Yeah,
Unless we
no,
have like a Asta, Vanessa, and Finro versus battle with Kurogiri that gets changed um and
oh,
Aizawa who can just cancel out the quirk. That's I don't
they
see.
could do a item bait and switch where they throw something out, and then Shigaraki's like, "I'll be taking that," and then Kaminari's like, "Thank you," because we know that lightning still messes with the signals. Because at the end of the day, he still has a nervous system. So
Yes.
so there, we found a way for them to actually do something.
Are
Go
we saying
team, way to
that
go.
are we saying that like you remember months ago we talked about like Bakugo doing like an explosion like Vegeta in like Gohan versus Cell? Are you saying that Kaminari is the Vegeta where he just shoots out a lightning bolt?
Maybe,
Because like who else is going to join Deku's side?
you know, it, Skycrawler, my boy
Skycrawler?
Skycrawler.
Hey, I'll take it.
Also, real quick, Terrence Bernard came through with the super chat. The alternative, getting all those quirks almost killed Shiggy. What would happen if he tried giving his worst quirks to explode Deku? So, I think it was Cameron Bailey
Oh,
who was mentioning Akira earlier.
yeah. What, like
So,
Shigaraki tries to overload Deku using all
so
one?
I was gonna say the other option is that as because these quirks are jam packed with extra energy,
Yes.
that you tend towards that Akira thing because even though Shigaraki's body seems complete, I think
Yeah.
we can agree that it still seems at least a little unstable.
Mm-hmm. It's not as perfect
And
as it may seem.
adding in some quirks that have been fermenting for over 80, 90, 100 years, there might just be enough stockpile of energy in that quirk specifically to just completely destabilize Shigaraki's body.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how we get the Akira ending. Like the trade-off is that like in the process of losing one for all or most of one for all, because I say he gets to keep, the base energy, he basically ends up being the second All Might. Like that's all he has left at the end of this.
Mm-hmm.
On the first day of Christmas, Horikoshi gave to me Deku versus Shigaraki in the sea. Merry Christmas, my fellow
Merry
dudes.
Christmas.
Merry Christmas,
Merry
Wolf.
Christmas. Congratulations. I know you put a lot of thought into that one.
I thought of it like the last 20 seconds. Okay. So yeah, end of the year. That fucking bitch, All For One, is dead. Thank fucking God. Good riddance. Goodbye. Sort of. We do know there's his vestige in the vestige world, which like I think we all knew there was an extra thing with the vestige coming, or at least something pertaining to that. But for the most part, AFO himself, for the most part, is gone. Really, all that's left is his ghost. I also it was so in character for Bakugo to like stand his ground because like he could have just let All For One kind of ride around in that crater and just vanish, but like he wasn't gonna do it. He's like, nah, I gotta see this through to the end, and does that like last minuscule amount of damage to him with the spike. And by the way, when All For One is, I think a lot of people noticed this already, but I want to point it out. When All For One is jutting out his spike out of his mouth, it's exactly like Deku was reduced to doing in the last war, you know, and
The
it's just,
Froppy style.
yeah, Froppy style. It's ironic he had to do Froppy style himself because, like, think about All For One. This is like the absolute worst, most horrible, most pathetic, and most ironic way for him to go out. Full stop. Like, and this is why a lot of the reactions to this were just killing me because it's like you don't like genuinely people just scale villains off how cool they look or how cool they behave. They don't actually pay attention to like stuff about the story or how it matches like what the character is individually. Like All For One is like I keep telling people this is like, oh well, he's a bad villain. I'm like, dude, he's trying to be a great villain. Like that's the ironic thing with him. He keeps trying to be this awesome, perfect villain, but that's impossible for him to achieve because he wasn't really being true to who he really was or confronting himself. So that all came back to bite him continuously throughout this arc. And it was such a great way of defeating him because they were so scared of going up against him before. They left everything to All Might. They couldn't imagine beating him. Like even at the start of this arc, people were like, "Oh, how are they going to beat him?" You just wail away at him little by little, and
He was a raid boss.
yeah, he's a raid boss. By everybody coming together, they finally overcame him. And I mean, when you really think about it, Bakugo kind of standing his ground and doing like that last little explosion, that's effectively him killing All For One. Like I know it was Ares' quirk indirectly, and basically All For One suicided himself. But like I feel like that is kind of like intentional killing on Bakugo's part, which is like I think we needed to see because the heroes have attempted to kill before, but other times like things get in the way or the villain ends up fine. Like Deku's attempted murder count is up to like a dozen at this point. Like he's tried to kill a bunch of villains intentionally. So I like that we did finally get to see that kind of intentional intent to actually kill, and it more or less happened.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
no,
was gonna
All For
say
One
Baku.
probably has the most deaths in the series, like whether it's versus All Might or Endeavor or Tokoyami or like Bakugo or All Might again.
Yeah, they killed him like
And
six
again.
times. They killed him like six times between all of them. There was like his original death back in the past, and this arc is like there was Endeavor frying him, then there was Tokoyami burying him, and then there was Iron Might kind of pumping him full of acid and screwing him up, and then lastly Bakugo, which is just like completely rewinding him. Um, yeah, and then lastly, oh man, this is such an intense setup for a final fight because Deku's biggest advantage for the past 200 chapters has been these additional quirks. There was some time spent trying to figure them out and trying to sort them out, and when Black Whip first emerged, it was very dangerous. But for the most part, they have been a major boon for him. Now he's in a situation where that's entirely flipped on his head because Shigaraki is now going to be using those quirks against him. And remember, Danger Sense was what was kind of keeping the stalemate between them because it was allowing Deku to read Shigaraki's moves. That's gone now. So Deku is going to have to really get on the offensive here and find a way to bypass Shigaraki's not just his regen, but his super durable body. Yeah, there's a lot of ways this can go. I don't think Deku is going to be quirkless. I think that's like we see him as a hero in the future through Endeavor's kind of like I mean I technically it's not he's not seeing the future because he can't, but he's imagining it. He's imagining it.
We hope that
Right.
Horikoshi isn't blue balling us is effectively the crux of what you're saying there.
Yeah. So effectively, those are the post-time skip designs. So we know Deku is going to be a hero, and he's still telling the story. The question is if he gets those quirks back, or if he's left with the main power stalking quirk. I'm fine with either outcome, honestly. Like I think the actual function is so long as he is a hero, and if he gets the multiple quirks, then that's a super cool. I still prefer that he keeps the quirks overall because I just love that move set. I think that's really distinctly him. But if this ends with like everybody more or less having one quirk and kind of a quality being established once again throughout the world, I think that also works. Like the important thing is that Deku accomplishes his dream. It's not necessarily how he does it, you know?
Yeah. And so, okay, so because you just mentioned Deku accomplishing his dream, doesn't matter how he does it. I also want to, this is perfectly lined up with the super chat we just got from Cedric. Considering MHA has been an anthology being told by older Deku, if it comes to him sacrificing all his powers to defeat Shiggy, would that make him the greatest hero ever within universe, as his older self claims? And I think
I
that
think there are multiple ways to interpret that kind of thing, but I think the story does show that like there's a difference between individual character and also the position of being an actual hero, like in the field, because it kind of separates the boundary between dreams and reality, right? And I think a
Have
lot
you
of
been
the
playing
series,
Kingdom Hearts 2?
yeah, I love Kingdom Hearts 2, man. One of my favorite games of all time. By the way, I'm going through the whole compilation of Final Fantasy VII as an aside in anticipation for Rebirth. Super excited for that. But anyways, yeah, basically, like I think with Deku, it's like he I think Horikoshi kind of he goes for the sentimental route to a point that he just stops just short in a lot of instances, and he's like, okay, this is where the reality kind of comes in. Like we saw this with Dobby, where it's like, oh, it was like kind of a touching family reunion. It's like, oh, well, he's still burned to a crisp, but he still tried to kill everybody, so he's not really happy. Toga, like we saw with her, it was like, oh, Ochako finally reached out to her. Yes, she was able to finally find somebody who understood her type of love. Wait, she's still a serial murderer and she's gonna go to jail forever. So she'd rather die than let that happen to her. Uh and like you see these kind of reality checks again and again. I think it's specifically in Deku's case, it doesn't really make sense to be like, I became the greatest hero by sacrificing myself. I think it's more fitting, whereas like I became the greatest hero and I came from nothing and I am still that dude always. Right.
So I do want to humor their quirk Jesus comment and say that Jesus is sacrificing himself. So, I mean, but the idea that Deku being quirkless, like, it would make me kind of sad for the guy. I do think he would still count as the greatest hero. I don't disagree that he would be like, I don't, just the scale of what Shigaraki presents and the path that Deku took to stop him. I don't think anybody is matching that. And I don't think anybody is supposed to be able to match that, right? Because let's say 150 years, somebody stronger than Shigaraki shows up as a villain. But in 150 years, New Order is going to look like a C tier quirk.
Which is scary to think about.
Maybe it won't fall all the way to C tier, but it'll probably be looked at as a C tier quirk. Because the shit that people in like Deku's generation is doing, like Bakugo's quirk is unhinged. Now I want you to imagine, because Bakugo's quirk has no playbook to it. Like think about this for a second. We have no characters with a quirk like Bakugo's in the series. Like you have concepts that you can like, yeah, we can kind of apply this stuff. Like, like, hey, we can like build, release, yeah. But one, Bakugo already had kind of figured that out. But two, that's for fire style. Like we've seen multiple people with fire style quirks. We saw like that dude during an interview when Endeavor was like, "Oh, Endeavor's number one. How do you feel?" He's like, "Well, I got a fire quirk, so I don't know, man. Like my finger's on fire, and I think Endeavor's kind of cool because he's got a quirk just like me. Yeah, like." We know the Himura clan is just filled with ice users. So like we have people who you can like grab the playbook to, or like how in JJK they talk about like, well, if a sorcery or a particular curse technique's been around for a while and it's been in a specific family, it's kind of like a manual on how to use it, so people know extra stuff and how to do things. But in the future, whether it's a descendant of Bakugo's or somebody who just happens to be related to them or whatever the case may be, somebody is going to show up with explosion or a quirk that is an upgraded form of explosion, or maybe from birth they'll have the explowling, whatever. And they're going to be able to just look to Bakugo to get all the answers for a bunch of shit and cut down the time needed to get to Bakugo's level massively. And then that person with their quirk that's even stronger. Wait, did I miss a super chat?
No,
I
it's the
thought you
same.
read all of them.
Okay. I just saw
Anisha's message.
It's
yeah.
It's $20, so it's staying up longer.
Okay, yeah. I was just a little worried for a second. But so like the game of leapfrog that we're going to be playing with generational knowledge is insane. So you have like the extra knowledge, and then you have just what we, because let's say Shoto and Momo end up together and they go and have kids. There's a lot of ways that that can go, because my favorite combo is he gets the ability, like one of the kids has the ability to make constructs of fire and ice that just like function and do things.
Like Gray from Fairy Tale.
Like they're just like, yep, like out the box, I can make this stuff. And then you imagine, combining the heat and that, and oh look, you got like living creatures of like fire and yes, Tanisha, I read it.
Yeah,
Flying around doing stuff. Got birds aflame flying around doing all kind of other stuff, scouting and all. Like the flexibility, because like even Hawks' quirk is fucking insane when you think about it.
It's compared to jets and stuff. Like it's crazy.
Like
I
the
think-
speed is compared to jets. They function as sensory organs. They can cut people. They can cut like actual stone and stuff.
They're strong
Yeah,
enough to
I
hold up
think-
a person and move them from A to B.
I think this is the part where, like, there's two things that people kind of aren't really honest about when it comes to like scaling MHA against other versus which, look, I think that's nonsense. But there's a few things you need to pay attention to. One, I think a lot of it is because MHA is kind of seen as like the popular anime to drag, as like people are really hesitant to acknowledge how strong the verse is. And the other thing is this manga carves people up. People get fucked up, man. Like, I mean, I think in a lot of other verses you don't see injuries this bad. Like, I mean, I think the only really current one I've seen injuries get this bad and treated as like really debilitating is Jujutsu Kaisen. And even Jujutsu Kaisen, there's like a lot of instances where they kind of walk certain things off.
Yeah.
And I mean, that happens in MHA as well, but I think there are a lot more examples where people are just kind of affected by shit. Like, I mean, for every Bakugo has his heart exploding, yeah, sure, Headshot comes in last minute. And by the way, that was like a very specific part of his heart that was ruptured. So, yeah. But we've been over that before. Ochako is susceptible to bleeding out. We've seen Jiro get her ear torn off. A lot of examples, but yeah,
Never's eye getting slashed. Just-
yeah. So like it's tougher than I think people give it credit for. It's just that Horikoshi shows he really lives up to how dangerous quirks are. Like people aren't recognizing this. It's like,
Well, it's
He
because a lot of
stresses-
people are attached to the permanence of death,
yeah,
but for the love of
MHA's
God,
injuries
it
stick.
never happens. But actually, I've seen myself get clipped like once. But I don't want somebody to clip me out of context. Killing a character and dying in a story is a lot easier to navigate than a long-term like disability or a heavy nerve.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you keep that character around, or if it's directly going to pivot the way that character arc can't even be structured.
yeah. Like I don't mean to set up the comparison, but just as a point of reference, Gege runs into this problem quite a bit in JJK. Like people have been begging Toto to come back, but he can't come back because he just had him retire because he can't use Boogie Woogie anymore.
It's dead.
Yeah,
You can't
because
use
of
it
his-
anymore.
because his hands are screwed up. Like he lost an arm and then the other is screwed up too. So, yeah.
Which, I mean, if you watch TikTok, apparently he can make Boogie Woogie work by clapping his ass cheeks. But
Oh my god.
Well, that's what the anime did.
Oh.
Okay, I mean, like not literally, but like there was no like the way it went, like he never physically clapped his hands. So like the joke was, what did he clap, his ass cheeks?
Dude,
So
the amount of people
That's
who
the
don't
funniest.
the amount of people who compare that shit to All Might scenes, I'm like, it's a My Hero Academia anime.
Not only that, but in a recent episode, Urumi used like ice in a very similarly shot way as Shoto. So,
Oh,
the
it's
My Hero
almost
reference is there.
it's almost like JJK is inspired directly by My Hero Academia. Oh,
It's almost like they're like Horikoshi and Gege talk a lot.
yeah, it's not
Yeah.
like they're like, oh god, they're like not so secret boyfriends at this point.
Like my wife said, these niggas in the modern era was drawing straws to go to dinner with Horikoshi, but people
Legit.
want to act like he. Anyway, I want to get to Terrence's second super chat just because we did read your first one, though I don't think we spent a lot of time talking about if Shigaraki tried to overload Deku, would he blow up? I think because of the conditions of One for All, if Shigaraki tried that, it would create more like, well, since you took Danger Sense, that's at least one quirk, and that quirk is specifically built to keep gaining information. So I don't think it would pose a problem for Deku. But two, I want to read your second one. Singularity will bring a great quirk contraction over the generations. If you don't mind, I want you to expand a little bit on what you mean by contractions. Obviously, it doesn't need to get through a super chat. I'll just keep like peeking in there. But
Yeah.
I want to make sure I understand what you mean before I like try to speak to that. And as far as like the injuries and stuff like that go, like, okay, Midnight died, and then people complained that she wasn't important enough, which is crazy because we've seen her since like chapter what
4, I
10,
think.
24, I don't know. Like she's been around since the very early bit of the series. She was there doing joint training. She like shows up constantly. Two though, manga and anime in general love keeping character designs consistent. Cartoons, all of it, it saves money. If you end up animating, it saves time. You can just constantly go back to that same design over and over and over again. When a character gets injured in My Hero, Horikoshi will make it a point to draw angles that show you the scar on Kaminari's forehead from when compressed hit him with a bunch of rubble. He takes these extra steps to make sure that any scar or physical like form of maiming or newfound deformity is gone or is visible, not gone. There's because we use JJK as an example, no reverse curse techniques that you can use and just like heal back. Just like one of the best things Gege did as far as injuries go is when he torched Maki, he gave her that accelerated healing ability, but they did not make it a point to just remove any and all scarring that she developed. They kept like Gege kept that scarring visible. And that's something that's important is like to be consistent. Now, obviously, like Maki's, I think, the only character that we see like have that heavy scarring, but the fact that he took that extra step shows diligence. And in the case of like My Hero, having to customize cybernetic limbs for Mirko, doing a custom cyber leg for Aizawa, and now having to add an eye patch, changing his design 300 plus chapters in, doing all these small changes to characters just to accommodate injuries, which means we know that if any page with Jiro in it is going to highlight the fact that she's now missing an ear. Any page with Mina in it going forward, we saw that she has some skin discoloration from using her acid. And at the Makia battlefields, we're gonna see that she's got random blotches of discolored skin going forward. There's this weird, like, and it takes more effort artistically. Because also, like, if a nigga's just dead, you just don't have to draw him again if you don't feel like it. You just don't have to do that.
Which is why it makes it funny that Gege takes like every opportunity to show Toji.
Because he
That's
only
his
killed
boy.
Toji because he was like, fuck, I wrote him in a position where I have to kill him.
I also think it's just in a way of like, damn, I killed him, but I like him so much. Let me just, bring him
He
back
likes
to
him more than
battles.
Gojo.
Yeah, quite literally, that's his boy. That's his.
Like, okay, here's the funny thing. Like,
I love that
Noji did like a
consistency.
lot of terrible shit, and he still drew him in like one of the extras going to heaven with the halo on his head. I'm like,
Yes.
oh,
He's in love with the character. You know what? It's like Hori with Mirko.
yeah,
Mhm.
dude. What happens when like Gege starts his idol manga and like the first page is just Toji walking on screen? It's like, hello, girls, I'm gonna be your manager.
I mean, it's not just that. Look at like the current arc with Gojo's drip. It's Toji's like 1-to-1. He just
Yeah,
loves Toji.
1-to-1.
And also it's it's Killua's drip from Khmer Ant, but I won't go that
Oh,
I won't go there.
also, I saw somebody say that AFO's ending people don't like because it's not grandiose.
It's
And
fitting though. I like
here's the thing, for me at least. I feel like from a thematics and narrative standpoint, this is absurdly grandiose. He got a raid boss send-off. He fought like he had to get his consciousness beaten the fuck out of Shigaraki, the main villain. He had to get torched by Endeavor. He then had to get jumped by Tokoyami, Gigantomachia, Manetta. And he had to go fight All Might. Then he had to go fight Bakugo. And then finally he turned into a bloody zygote. It took a lot for him to go out like this.
It took the whole arc.
Visually, he goes out like the pathetic, selfish crybaby that he really is at the end of the day.
Like Envy.
Like somebody should have shared their notes or their plans for Awful One's end with a certain writer so we could have nailed that shit a little better. If you know what I'm saying.
I do think his like I do get it where people are like, I kind of wish there was more reactions from other characters because obviously like this is All For One. His impact on the series is like, and like the fact that he has traumatized so many people, I would have loved to see it, but at the same time, it is fitting. Like, of course, you don't have to like how Hori has approached this, but you gotta admit, All For One going out, not a single person acknowledging it or giving him like the fuck. He dead now? Damn, that's crazy. It's kind of just, another middle finger to him.
Well, I obviously think that in the heat of battle, like you're not gonna get most care like still everyone is quite busy and the story still has to move along, which is why I do have expectations for a longer epilogue. But I mean, I don't think All For One is really gone. Like Horikoshi it keeps setting up things, and All For One obviously has one last trump card that he can pull, but the only way he can pull it is probably if and when Deku gets through to Shigaraki. Because remember, it's Shigaraki's hatred that is what has allowed him to keep AFO at bay. But if Deku can actually deal with that, and that would create an opening for All For One's vestige inside him. That's at least how I view it.
I think you're making it a little more simpler than it is because that's just like that is way out of character for Shigaraki. I think like he's not like they're not going to be fighting over wherever they are, and Shigaraki's going to be like, I'm finally going to let go of all my hatred.
I don't necessarily think. Yeah, no, I don't necessarily think you can do that with Shigaraki. I mean, the thing is, though, that is sort of something like that has to kind of happen.
I think
there's no way.
What happens is Shigaraki, like All For One's control of Shigaraki is not really anything to do with the quirk stuff itself. I mean, it kind of is, but his control of Shigaraki has always been psychological in the end. Like it's always been psychological tactics and keeping him under control. Like the hand, like when he's about to lose control of Shigaraki a few times before he does finally lose control, he puts his hand on his face just to like keep him muzzled.
Yes, but that's
so what I think is going to happen instead is I think All For One is going to try to do something.
Because actually, I was about to say the last ditch effort, like or tactic they mentioned
he-
at the very beginning of the chapter
Like
could fall into
here's the
that.
thing with AFO. Nothing he does works.
No, and nothing, and I don't think anything he tries later will work either. Obviously, like he's doomed to fail. What I mean is
I
that
think
he's not
I think
quote
what's going to
unquote
have to
done yet.
happen is, look, I think Shigaraki's past the point where like he's going to be able to let go of his hatred and whatnot. I think what's going to happen. Actually, I think I'm describing it wrong. I think if he lets go of his hatred, it's going to be after All for One tries his trick.
Mhm.
And it's going to be a final send off where like Deku reaches out to him and he's like finally happy somebody recognized him for what he was. And then he gets to kind of die sort of at peace, at least.
Well, yeah, no, far be it from me to project the exact events, but I do think like there has to be some kind of opening for the Vestige All for One to play one last attempt here that would allow some final interactions with the Vestiges and Deku. But I agree that no, of course he's not going to succeed. I think I mentioned this at some point on Twitter, but Horikoshi approaches the villain hero interactions as a type of synthesis and coming together, not necessarily as a type of conflict where you have one loser and one winner. You know, unless it's something like muscular, for example. Like you don't have that. But what happens is when the two sides clash, something else is kind of born from it. And I expect that to be the case here. Like Shigaraki himself as a villain cannot possibly succeed, and I'm not sure he even survives. Like I don't think that's him.
Dude, I
He
mean,
has
like,
too much hatred to simply just
I mean, the stakes are too high now,
coexist.
because it's like they outlined this in a chapter as like, look, All for One is actually the easier obstacle here
Yes.
because he is like, we have a little wiggle room with him because he has to show mercy for his plan to even work.
Right.
With Shigaraki, like he doesn't care about that. So he's just gonna go straight for the kill always. And now that he's threatened to destroy all of Japan, they really have no choice. They have to stop him here.
And
Yes.
it's
So
doubtful he's not even going to stop there too. Like
Oh,
if
obviously
dude.
not with Japan only.
Dude,
Like
my theory was like that he was going to
decay of the world.
eventually disintegrate the whole world, and that's basically true. Like he's not going to stop at Japan. He's going to fly
yeah.
over to the other countries. He's probably going to America first. Disintegrate in North America. He's going to disintegrate. He's going to disintegrate every country and continent on the
He's
planet.
got a world tour coming up. Yeah.
Yeah.
So for sure. Yeah, no, my thought is that Shigaraki does have to quote unquote die, but I think that via the all for one, one for all shenanigans and Vestige World stuff, Deku will be able to take quote unquote Tenko as a vestige inside him. At least that's my thought. Like there has to be a synthesis of some sort, and I think Deku will carry something of Shigaraki's forward. One of his ideals or convictions will be carried forward into making society better.
I've been going through Final Fantasy VII stuff again, and like the relationship between Cloud and Sephiroth kind of in some ways, but also not really, reminds me of the relationship between Deku and Shigaraki. And so I kind of and like my Flights of Fancy, I've kind of toyed with the idea of like, oh, what if the Shigaraki persona kind of lingers on as like a phantom of Deku's in his memory or something, which is basically the relationship between Cloud and Sephiroth after the original game. But anyway.
Yeah, it's kind of funny you mentioned that because my mind kind of went to Final Fantasy IX at the end with Kuja and Zidane.
Right, where they like, I mean, they had their big fight and Zidane beats back Necron.
Yeah.
But Zidane goes to save him anyway, and Kuja's genuinely touched because it was the first time anybody ever gave a shit about him.
Yeah.
So
we do know Horikoshi loves Final Fantasy IX like this, so that might be me projecting that onto the situation.
Dude, but Final Fantasy IX is a big influence on MHA, especially this last act. Like a lot of the last parts of Final Fantasy IX are a lot like the end game of MHA. You got Shigaraki overcoming his master, like Kuja overcomes Garland and all this other stuff. Like if you haven't played Final Fantasy IX, it was kind of a bit of an underrated gem. Please go play it. It's super awesome. is probably my favorite single Final Fantasy entry because it's a super well told story and it just comes together really nicely.
And also there was a super chat.
Yeah.
Grab that. I'd argue AFO did go out very well. He battles All Might, his greatest nemesis, in a version where All Might has no quirks to oppose him. Does a lot character-wise to be obsessed with power when toppled by someone with none. Cedric, you dropping gems today.
Yeah, no, Cedric, that's an awesome take because
I
I don't
100%
like
agree.
reducing all for one did into just literally the final defeat where we get where his life comes full circle, where he was born and dies with nothing. Like, of course he has to go, quote unquote, go out pathetically, but like along the way, the man was an absolute menace. So I absolutely dislike all the takes that only disparage All for One. He is a complete character, I think. And
Even
once
if
he
you
AFO
dies,
went
kill-
on a tear. Like, think about it. First off, AFO fought naked and was only scarier for it. How many
How do
humanoid
you do
villains do
this?
you see end up butt ass naked and you're just like, oh my god, it might be over?
He was talking about violating.
You don't
That's hanging out.
understand the amount
I'm
of
like,
fan art that went
dude.
up for All for One.
Like,
Dude.
and then he was like, I'm kidding, I don't want to fight naked, and then rob somebody for their quirking clothes.
Like,
Like he said, give me that, and I'll take this dusty ass quirk too. Sit your ass down somewhere. Like, and then was like, all right, now back to beating your asses.
It's
Like-
funny to realize that like All for One technically does not like everything he has was stolen. So like all those nice suits he has, he didn't really just robbed a bunch of fucking stores and stashed them somewhere and be like, I'm gonna pick
Oh,
out this
definitely.
suit. I'm gonna pick out that suit. Oh, it's like my final confrontation. I'm finally gonna get that quirk. I'm gonna get this really nice suit I saved just for this occasion with the undervest and everything. And then he had to get a bunch of makeshift capes and robes anyway.
and
I
in
do
the
I do
end,
like
he's
the
in his
fact
birthday
that
suit.
he may not have killed All Might, but he did win against All Might. He did defeat him in battle.
Yeah, no, that's a legitimate. Like, no,
Yes, he
had been
got what
winning
he
all the
wanted,
way up until
technically.
this point,
Yeah.
quote unquote, winning. Yes,
Mhm.
like yes, he suffered major uh injuries that rewound him, but like the man was still alive and he had a functioning plan. Like all the way to the end, his plan still very much could have worked. Even as a baby, he just needed to get to touch Shigaraki, just unassumingly go like poke. And it's like I win. Like that's all the way until the very end. So like I know people clown on him, but like the guy was a threat all the way down to when he was back in diapers. So respect the creep, the monster, the former demon lord, All for One.
Yeah, because I saw someone on the timeline a couple of days ago, a specific person say All for One is an F tier villain, and I'm sitting here like, oh,
That anime is it in yet?
yeah, that guy, not
Anime
the
balls
name.
deep.
I mean, I wasn't gonna name drop it, but yeah, that guy.
Yeah, like okay.
I'm sorry.
I saw
I remember
all the
MHA
Aizen
takes are
going out
awful.
whining and crying about how he should have been the god or whatever. That's kind of pathetic in my view, but you don't see me
It's
boiling Aizen down to just that.
it's so boring what they wanted from him. It's like, look, it's so much more interesting for him to try and be that ultimate villain but still fail.
Mhm.
Because like that kind of proves the manga's central point, like that everybody's human in the end, no matter what airs you put on. Like we're all the same. We're all the same deep down. For All for One, like he kept denying that, and he couldn't accept that he was not inherently better than everybody else. In fact, because he focused so much on material wealth and gaining things and not really building anything he had individually, he kind of ended up on the inside as a person, the weakest and most pathetic of all. And so you saw that happen. And that's I find characters with flaws normally more interesting that like I'm gonna tell you guys something. I really do not like mastermind villains for the most part. Like, I think they're boring. And when I kind of saw AFO's kind of start his whole spiel at the, especially at the start of final act, I was like, we'll see how this goes. But I really came to be more encouraged by how the story was pointing out that All For One kind of didn't know what he was doing in the end. Like, he was LARPing and he was pretending to be a lot of things he wasn't. And that kept coming back to bite him. And to the point, like, people were complaining that so much of the arc was about All For One. And I get that. I get not being super interested in him. But I think you have to look at what the purpose All For One is serving here. And to have gone out not accomplishing any of his goals, going out as a literal baby, just vanishing into a zygote and zapping out of existence. That is the most drawn out, epic, and insanely bombastic way for somebody to go out. It's like, it's by far the most wild death we've seen in the series. Like, somebody just straight up turning into a baby and rewinding out of existence, which doubles as something thematic because it's like he was never there at all. Right?
Mhm.
All
Like,
for none.
all for none. It's like, in the end, there was nothing.
Well, so, and that's kind of the beauty, right? The person who had nothing from birth finishes as just nothing. Like, and I love it because it's like, what is your legacy, bro? You spent most of your history as a shadow figure. So most people don't even know about the heinous villainy you've done. You became like a myth. The League of Villains was like the face of everything. And because Tomura Shigaraki here, even though he has the quirk All For One, he's the last boss standing. So all this time to build himself up as the ultimate demon lord, because of his put myself in Shigaraki's body project, which, hey, you know, that airy stuff happened while he was in prison. But imagine if he had opted to instead rewind himself and find a way to just stop it. Like if him and the doctor had collaborated on that. So instead, his legacy is being a shadow figure, which means having almost no legacy. And then going out as a baby, being completely rewound.
All For One is
Everything that he put into
Mhm.
becoming the ultimate demon lord has been undone by himself.
Yeah.
Which is like the icing on the cake, right? Like he stole like a copy of Rewind. So like in the process of taking another power to preserve himself, preserve his ego, to put himself on top, he undid every single facet of like what his legacy would have been.
Yeah,
He
All
plays
For
don't
stupid
One,
think
games
there's a
and
more
wants
fitting
stupid
ending.
prizes.
All
That's
For One is like the thing with him. I'm trying to put it into words. I lost the thought. Get back to me in a
Your
second.
nails.
Mhm.
Say
You know
hi,
how satisfying
everybody.
it is? Hello.
Merry Christmas.
Hi,
Merry
Merry
Christmas.
Christmas.
You know what's
Oh.
even satisfying about like this entire situation, about this chapter itself? For the longest time, we have dealt with a lot of silly gooses in on the timeline being like, oh well, All For One's gonna be the final boss, and he's the final endgame villain. And like Shigaraki was just, tossed aside, and Horikoshi doesn't care about him. And look where we are now. Look where we are. That panel of him going move aside and wah, it's so oh my god, it feels cathartic.
So Cameron Bailey, one of the things I want to emphasize is that it's pointed out that people, not everybody is confident AFO actually exists by this point in the story. Up until Camino, it was like a question if maybe he wasn't actually real.
Like an urban
He had
legend.
a kind of mythic existence because his whole shtick, his point was to be the shadow boss. So it's like, even though you have governing agencies who know about him, he's something that history would rather bury because of just how terrifying that type of existence is.
Yeah.
I
Here's the
like
other
I
thing.
said, I don't quite appreciate the all for one has no legacy thing. It's true, but like not exactly. Like his all of his actions tortured so many people,
Oh
especially
yeah.
All Might. So like I don't like looping it back into slander because he deserves it, but
Oh no,
like
it's not meant to slander. It's meant like, what is his legacy to the public? And what will people say about him in 10 years versus what will they say about Shigaraki in 10 years?
What will they say about Black Clover in 10 years?
Hey, let's chill. The
The
new
I was
chapter
chapter
more
came
of a
came
out.
out
talking
today.
inverse, but
The chapter came out today,
Oh,
and
to the
I have some thoughts, but anyway, that's not the objective of the stream. Anyway, the thing with All for One is like he is super smart until he runs across something that he just genuinely has no ability to comprehend, and then he gets really stupid. Like he knows certain things very well, but only those things. He does not know a lot of other stuff because, again, this goes back to his upbringing. It's like he was raised without any parental figures. It was just him and Yuichi. He really had nothing to push back against his bad behavior. So it's basically he was just a naughty child, all grown up. And again, like he literally became that in the end. And here's another thing. I understand that the quirk vestiges are a recent phenomenon, but the fact that All for One was not really thinking about how to steal One for All beyond the general concept of, oh, I'm just gonna have Shigaraki kind of overwhelm it. The fact that he didn't really think of like, hey, why don't I take each of the vestiges one by one so that it's just leaving the last vestige and that'll be a lot easier to take. Like the fact that he didn't really think of that tells me that shows that he was not only super focused on Yuichi's quirk, he was not thinking about this like he should have. Like he was going about it the wrong way from the beginning.
well, it's kind of like, like what I was talking about earlier with the explosions or improving on other people's powers because you've had time to learn from them. Shigaraki gets to tackle this from a very different perspective because he doesn't actually care if it works. Whereas All for One had that very personal motivation of trying to grab Yoichi. So as much as like Shigaraki's emotions are more volatile than AFO's and blah 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 blah, it was AFO's emotions that limited him and Shigaraki's lack of emotion about the situation that allowed him to succeed.
Yeah. Like Shigaraki is not invested in the One for All versus All for One conflict. He specifically sees Deku. Like that's his real enemy.
Yeah. He's that baby.
Which is also seen with like how like All for One does not refer to Deku by name. Like he constantly calls him by the quirk name, One for All. Tobler has lost to One for All. I was worried about New Order and One for All colluding. He doesn't see people. He sees only the quirks because that's all he really considers of value. So when Shigaraki came back and like chapter 377, he's like, I am your villain. It's very specifically towards Deku. And this makes the conflict a lot more personal. This is exactly where I was hoping we would end up because all signs pointed to it. And I'm glad I'm super happy we went this route. I knew that if the possession kept going, it was I wouldn't have liked it if it had just kept going, but for the purposes served, it made Shigaraki stronger. He overcame All for One. Now, of course, All for One has his last tactic, but I'm super impressed with how Horikoshi's been wrapping up this series. Honestly, this is the point where a lot of authors do tend to stumble because it's like it's a lot of things coming back at once and sometimes don't know how to do it. Some pull it off very well. And I think with time, this final arc of MHA is going to be seen in a much more positive light.
Oh, I definitely agree. I think that a lot of what people have felt was negativity. I know you guys can't see me that well, you just see my daughter, but has been moreover like projected doubts and insecurities based off prior readings. And I think AFO like a lot of people still, I think, see AFO as that final villain due to his attempt to usurp Shigaraki as the final villain. And even if he manages to like throw a Hail Mary at the end, right? At this point in the story, it's very clear that anything he does will only be a hindering block to Shigaraki. So Shigaraki is the final true villain, and anything else is like, damn, you just cost your side to win. Good luck. Hey, what you looking for? What you looking for? What you trying to do? Trying to stand up?
Out of curiosity, how was the reception to Thousand Year Blood War when that was coming out?
Hate.
I wasn't online, but a lot of people didn't like the 1,000 Year Blood War towards the end.
There was
I
a
still
lot of,
don't like it from start to finish, but I understand
Scum.
people
there was a
who do.
lot of hate.
Yes, no, a lot of beloved shonen series would not survive the current environment in terms
Oh,
of
dude.
negativity online.
Oh,
Like,
Dragon
just
Ball
not.
especially.
Oh,
No,
well,
I
so
loved
many
the
series,
1,000 Year Blood
especially.
War when I was reading it. I loved it when I reread it in 2022. Um,
Valid.
I saw screenshots of forums and like people talking about the war, and like it felt to me like they were ready to murder Kubo. Like the reception to this war, especially towards like the last act, was
Yeah, no,
just awful to read.
the consensus was Bleach had fallen off really, really hard, and I understand it. I understand that you can actually enjoy it, but like in terms of engaging writing, Bleach is a lot more of an atmospheric manga, in my opinion. And like, there are lots of things to appreciate. I think Kubo is a phenomenal character designer, for example. Um, but there are certain storytelling things that I personally dislike. Uh, and also the character bloat just doesn't help at all. Um, it just like
Mhm.
people talk about how Horikoshi can't handle having multiple side characters and like okay, look, this is an endemic shonen problem. Like I don't think any of the big three are particularly good at handling their side characters, barring I
Honestly,
think perhaps Oda, who at least
You read
who-
it. Super chat. I think you
Anarchy
need
dust
the
out the nerd boys.
yeah, I think you need it.
uh
I don't know, Volk. It's not raw enough.
hold on, Volk.
We gotta do this right.
It's not. I know, Volk. It's not raw enough for my expert taste. As a recent 8th grade graduate and anime YouTuber fanboy, I think I know what I'm talking about. Give
Oh,
me
shit,
my
you're right.
gingerbread cookies, Mom.
Shit, he right though.
The holiday
Can't
taste.
argue
I
with
love
that.
it. Your edges laid. Yeah.
Uncle
Smoked that fire said your edges are laid.
Dude, I saw this meme that kills me, and I kind of hated laughing at it, but it is also sort of true. It's the meme of Patrick with like the stupid face and he's drooling, and on it is like just the words aura, rawness, swag. And I'm like, that's absolutely how a lot of anime Twitter comes off.
Anime TikTok too.
Or social media in general.
Yeah.
yeah, no,
So-
it is very it is very superficial and explains a lot about I mean humanity in general, but that other things aside, like
Anytime Bleach
it's not
comes up,
fun.
though, y'all know I have to go to bat. So, my thing with Bleach is that while I definitely think that it does a good job with atmosphere, I think Bleach has, of like, in comparison to a lot of shonen, it has far more human character writing
Yes.
than most stories.
Mhm.
And that even goes back to like backstories and things like that, which is in direct contradiction to the bombastic environment that it's set in,
Yes.
which makes it far less appreciated than I honestly think it should be. Because like Baz B and Hoshvalt's backstory, even like Byakuya Kuchki's and Rugia's backstory, it's not some, oh, my sister was killed by 500 hollows, and as I killed the 499th one, or my wife died right as I killed Hollow number 499 to some kind of poison. No, it's I married this woman. She got sick. She asked me, filled with regret, to go find her sister who was in the hood and give her a better life. I knew it was against the rules to do this, but I did it anyway after I'd already violated the rules once, and I swore I would never violate the rules again because I needed to, like, in my mind, atone for going against everything that I've been brought up with and basically violating hundreds of years of culture, tradition, all this other stuff. I need to do better, but I don't feel right not doing this either. So it's a complete, like, being at odds with what you feel is right versus what you've been taught is right. And how do you want to navigate your life after that? And then dealing with the consequence of trying to stand on that versus, accepting that. It's basically like the situation you have with Garp and Ace, except Byakuya has like a bit more attachedness to the situation than even Ace does. I mean, Garp. Whereas with
yeah.
so there's like really actually sharp character writing, but I think especially when shonen manga are so heavily like aimed at kids and they tend to like crank things up to like 11. This is also one of the things that I like about My Hero, even though most people I think don't like this, is that the character writing is always done in a far more human style, like human, like just
Yes.
it's not done in a caricature fashion. So you're not seeing like, I don't know, we'll say like in One Piece how Virgo always has a piece of food stuck to his face or something like that. You're not gonna find a gag like that really in Bleach or My Hero, and any like weird behavioral tick somebody have
I
are
mean, it's
usually going to
honestly,
be over the top.
it's honestly one of the things that like they're working on it right now. I think it's one of the things that made My Hero Academia really eyed for a live action adaptation, regardless of what you think of it, because this was a series that would be relatively easier to do. Like, if they can do One Piece live action, they can absolutely do My Hero live action. It's
I
just
mean,
that
look at the Yu Yu Hakusho
I've heard Yu Yu
adaptation.
Hakusho is great, and I've
I
seen
watched the first 2 episodes. It's good. It's very good. I think it's like one of the big shonen in Weekly Shonen Jump that is like a lot easier to adapt. Of course you have
Yu Yu
like
Hakusho
demons, but it's very grounded in the beginning.
Yeah, Yu Yu
Makes
Hakusho
sense.
keeps things pretty simple for the most
Hmm.
part. Like it's like I mean there is the whole thing with the spirit world and different cur different monsters and stuff, but it's like it was not at least when I was watching it, there was nothing I would be like, oh, that would be absolutely impossible in live action. But anyway.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
because
when I touched on
Hey,
Bleach
Harnish.
earlier, I didn't mean to like insult Kubo's overall writing because
Mhm.
no, I agree with Aniki very much. I think he actually is a pretty good character writer. My favorite arcs are actually the very beginning ones because they're hyper focused on individual characters. Like I love the Karakura Town arc. I think that's actually his best written arc overall because it's focused on character stories and such. And I think what irks me about Bleach is just how it develop its larger plot and sometimes its larger villain writing doesn't quite grab me. But when he actually doubles down and focuses on certain specific aspects of a character, I think that ends up being really strong and I enjoy it. But most of my issues with Bleach are more about how its plot is structured and tackled, not so much how his specific characters are handled,
Mhm.
though I do think the character bloat is an issue, especially in the final arc, because some of these things I just can't bring myself to care about by that
I
point.
do think like jumping off your point about like when he focuses on a character, like their traits or the writing, like the human writing of them, it really shines. Like Ukiura, for example, like his arc of like what does it mean to have a heart is like really engaging. And also like in the very beginning, Orihime's like section of like the first arc is probably one of Kubo's best examples of human writing. Yes,
Yes.
done.
Marino.
Basically like the like Sora and Orihime's like with the mother and the father, how they ran away. Um It's like very human.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't get any like silly gags in it. Like it's just straight up like a touching backstory, which like I love about My Hero as well.
Oh, and now that you mentioned it, Orihime has probably the closest thing to like a recurring silly gag of the main characters, which
Oh, with the
is
loaf, the
the
bread.
food she eats,
Yeah.
and even that's not exactly a gag. It's more like a damn, this person was so under like nurtured as a child. They
She
don't
stuffs her face.
she doesn't understand proper meal structure or anything like that.
Cedric has a super chat.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys remember the Disney film Sky High, but that felt to me like a lighter template for what an MHA live
Delete
action
this.
could be.
No,
So
honestly, kind of
hold on.
spinning though.
I've heard that
Just-
before.
Just smite this.
So the thing is that I actually watched Sky High again. Like not, I have to say again because I want to make it clear it wasn't for the first time. Like a month or two ago, and my wife was like, "Is this Sky High?" I was like, "Yeah, it's Sky High."
I
Like,
love Sky High. It's such a good movie.
Oh,
If that's the tone and like the approach they want to take with a live action My Hero, while also keeping like the characters intact, I don't think it's going to be a bad adaptation.
I think Sky High isn't a bad template for like the beginning of My Hero.
Exactly.
Like the early, even though like there's a lot more brutality to the the way quirks and stuff are used, but like as a gentle framework for like edging people into the story, I think that Sky High feel of like, oh, like they're going to school, like see, since it's Netflix, I don't know if they're gonna do like this is in Japan or like an American studio is
I
doing
think
it.
I think they'll do like Japanese students. I don't think they'll do like American
Is
like very Dragon Ball
yeah,
or Death Note.
because like if they do a Japanese setting, then there's a little less worry. But like if it's Americanized, then all the students taking the train and stuff won't work
Yeah.
as well.
It's a weird thing because I think it's the movie's being made by Lionsgate, but it's
Yeah.
being distributed by Netflix. And
See,
unless something has changed, the director of the Netflix or the Bleach movie that's on Netflix is slated to be the director of that, but I don't know if that has changed or not.
I just don't want to see in like instead of Izuku Midori, Isaac Marston. But I don't want
yeah,
that.
nah, I don't need
Yeah,
that.
I mean,
It won't
like this is
fit.
my what I would really like is an original movie set in America in the world of My Hero Academia. Like because
A
so much
Captain
of it is
Celebrity
just
movie.
so much of it's just untapped. And
Mhm.
I'd just like to see that explored a little bit.
I don't think we'll get that simply because like you'll
Yeah, I
never
don't
get
either,
a My
but
Hero movie
that's what
without
I would
Deku in
like.
it. It's like you'll never get a One Piece movie without the Straw Hats. You'll never get a Bleach movie without seeing Ichigo.
You
It's
said that, and all I can think back to is like when One Piece Film Red was first announced, people were like, "Are you telling me the most content of Shanks we're gonna get is gonna be in a
in
fucking
this
movie?
movie. Yeah.
I'll take it.
I'll
Give me
take it.
Shanks content." And it was like, "No, this is still a Luffy movie, dude. No."
Because that's the only way you can tackle like a My Hero movie without being so controversial. Like a Captain Celebrity movie would do wonders.
My daughter getting
But
sleepy.
or a Skycrawler or something like that. I don't know. It's like, how do you approach this? But like from what I've seen from like the interview with the director, he's excited. He loves My Hero, so I do have a kind of a bit of faith in this.
Also, I got this dingy statue
Look
for
at that. That's
Christmas.
so cool.
I noticed because the video on my computer for the live chats is behind for whatever reason. So the last time I was leaned back, popped in, and I was like, "Oh, you can see the dingy statue I got." I think yeah, you're getting
I do
sleepy.
have a question for you guys.
What's up?
And I kind of mentioned it earlier. Also, first of all, hey Tarnish. But when All for One or Baby for One was like, based on what I observed of Tomura, the other me must have been taken out of commission before he could employ that last ditch tactic. I do want to know like what's your like how do you like what you think that tactic is?
I don't.
What'd you say?
I said I don't know, man.
Because like I don't know either.
I kind of think it's irrelevant now since if they seemingly both gone now. So
I wanna believe it's irrelevant now, but y'all know how the checkoff's gonna work.
Yeah.
But
Also, it was
to be
bolded.
honest, because we know the real All For One, he wanted to like implant his fake quirk into Shigaraki to
Yeah.
have like double control, whatever. I don't see how the Vestige could have done that without him. So
Mhm.
I don't know what his trump card could have been necessarily, but I don't know. The Viz translation made it seem like the Vestige wasn't dead yet. Like in the scans, it was like, oh, the Vestige is dead, but in the Viz, it's more like he's just like suppressed or something like that.
Yeah.
So the Vestige
Well,
come back.
I guess that makes sense though, because if you think about it, he like decayed All For One during PLW and he was still there. So
Yeah, it's not the first like time something like that has happened.
Also, I don't think like it'll be irrelevant considering like it was bolded and it was like, oh, before he got taken out of commission. So I do think it will come like this will happen. Whether or not it's like something beneficial for Tomura or if it's one last ditch effort to take control of Tomura, which I think would be kind of redundant, especially with what we got from Tomura like breaking free.
I
Like
think
his
at most
sponges.
he tries to take care of Tomura and it backfires and gets him fucking smacked in the face.
That'd be
Like,
cool, but I don't think it's necessary. But like if
I
if
don't
he
think
gets
it's
smacked in the
needed,
face, I'll
but
take it.
I do think it adds one more L to the closet for All For
All for
One. Like,
one.
damn, you
Yeah.
had just sat there, you guys would have won that fight.
Legit.
Hey yo.
I just don't know
should we?
why he would bring it up. Like I just don't know why he would bring it up if it wasn't happen.
Yeah, no, it has to come into play. Which I mean, let's be real. If your vestige is entirely destroyed, then your quirk is destroyed. And so, in order for All For One to be gone permanently, Shigaraki would have to lose All For One. That's just how
Right.
it works. Like, and that was also a part of what Cassie was showing us. Her vestige was destroyed, and thus they did not get New Order. Which I know you have your suspicions about New Order votes, but I'm just saying, based on what we have right now,
Uh,
Cassie's vestige is destroyed, so her quirk doesn't exist within
Yeah.
Shigaraki. So as long as Shigaraki has the All For One quirk, All For One's vestige still has to be alive.
Mm-hmm.
And that's fine. Because what it really just means is that Shigaraki has to completely solidify himself as that nigga.
Yep.
And in a lot of ways he already has, but like he has to figure out and that could be what leads to Deku being in a better spot against Shigaraki is him being like, you know what, fuck this, and just destroying the AFO, right? Like giving up the ability to take quirks just to not have to deal with AFO anymore.
I mean, honestly, Horikoshi re-emphasized this chapter that decay is his real bag.
Yeah.
Like,
So
it's been decay from day one. That's been his thing.
Because
So
what we could get is Shigaraki decays the AFO quirk, and by extension, all the quirks that have been stolen, and it comes down to Shigaraki and his modified body against Deku with just base one for all.
Mm-hmm.
that also lets
like that.
that also lets the one for all vestiges pass on, because I assume you mean in a scenario where he takes the other quirks.
Yeah. Yeah,
Mhm.
so like we don't have any vestiges left. We don't have All For One left. It's literally just that stockpiled power and Beefcake Shigaraki with decay.
Mano
going
a
at it.
mano.
Wait,
We
what did
also
you say?
a conversation between Nana and Siggy would be
Yes.
nice too, after he takes it. And he said mano a mano.
Mhm.
Yeah.
No, so with Jump Fest that was recent, should we talk about some of the things that were discussed there, like the stuff that he changed his mind about?
The Endeavor dying in Pro Hero, by the way.
Oh yeah. The information we got.
Yeah, like Endeavor dying, like it was supposed to be at PLW. He changed his
Yeah.
mind during Pro Hero, and Detective Sukaguchi was supposed to be a spy for All For One.
Yes.
Hey, All Might didn't need that pain.
He
Mhm.
did it.
Yeah, okay. Like I said this before, like if that actually happened, that would be a level of, oh, that's just mean. I have not experienced since I first played Danganronpa V3.
You know, that
Like-
would be
that game actively hates you for playing it, you know?
Like the only like excuse for that would be if we got confirmation that Makoto was in AFL's clutches or some shit.
Yeah.
You know what's wild? Like I remember like years ago, one of the biggest series for My Hero was that Suka Uchi was Kurogiri. Like the fact that we know now that he was meant to be a spy, that kind of gives that theory a bit more validity.
I
See,
don't know, bro, because he explicitly said that he changed his mind about Endeavor
Mhm.
dying during Pro Hero. He didn't give that type of estimation for Sukuichi.
Oh no,
So
I just mean like
maybe
it
it
could
was
have been a
like maybe it was
possibility.
in the original plans, but not
Yeah,
like during
for
the
sure.
manga.
Hmm.
Because there was that panel of them having like the same fit on.
Yeah, because the only reason why I said it gives it more validity is that people were thinking he was kind of like a double agent, like kind of a bad guy.
See, like that's a theory I did not even hear about until this came
I don't
out.
know. Yeah, I don't know, bro, because the only reason why All Might knows All For One was alive and it was because of him.
Mm-hmm.
Why would he snitch if he was always like a spy from the beginning?
Well, in that case, it would be like he's baiting All Might into taking the fight, knowing that he can't survive it. So he's like, "Yeah, bro, it's time. It's time for your bitch ass to die." I mean, for you to take out All For One.
Yeah. Ignore what I just said. All right. I do think like Endeavor possibly dying in PLF is kind of just like, not a good idea. I'm glad that that was reconsidered. We never got it.
Well, it's too easy. It's too easy of an out for him.
Yes, exactly.
And like I assume Dobby would be the one that did it. Like maybe took them
Yeah.
both out. Like during that prominence burn. Like maybe originally Genus didn't catch him at the last second.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Because like
Yeah.
so far in this final act, and like everything we've gotten from Endeavor, especially in this war, like it's been so satisfying. As like with that last goodbye to the Todorokis in this war itself, um, I'm just really happy with what we got. So like I can't imagine what could have been.
Yeah, it's fun to imagine.
Mm-hmm. But yeah.
Oh,
Also, so Jump Festa. Oh, he sucks somewhere else. Jump Festa also gave us Horikoshi's like his message, but it wasn't translated and put on the timeline. But like, it went along the lines of like we could see, like, it is a possibility we may get My Hero on the next Jump Festa, and Horikoshi would kneel if that was the case.
Doga's fest.
Yeah.
Well,
I,
it's
I
like-
am so sorry, but I want to see. I
Oh, you
want
wanna
to
see
see
that?
Horikoshi come to the Jump Fest. I really do. Because he will give us a lot more than just that. So, yeah.
I also would love to see Horikoshi get out of like his shell, go like into the public, like be in front of everyone at Jump Festa. Like you don't see that. And also it would be nice to get like a kind of a callback to the gag with Ray and Hawks, where she does a Dogaza. And it's like, no, get up. What are you doing? Don't you
Yes,
apologize?
exactly.
It'll be so fun. But I really hope, like, I know, like, My Hero could end whenever Horikoshi wants it to. I feel like, he also said that he has ideas for the epilogue, so we could get a very lengthy one, which I am happy about. That made me so happy.
Honestly, dude, I was thinking like epilogue was going to be pretty short. I think we're actually getting a full volume of that.
Yeah, I think so too.
It wouldn't surprise me at this point.
Or
which
maybe
is-
3 chapters, like at most, or at less.
Like normally epilogues for action series are very short because it's like when you're not focusing on the action anymore, it's like, well, that's kind of point of the whole series, so it's over.
Mm-hmm.
But I think with MHA, there's enough of like drama and slice of life elements to where you can have those like 9-10 chapters of wrap up, and it feels very fitting. It actually feels necessary, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope that's what happens.
Horikoshi might feel like that's too boring. He might be like, no, they're not gonna mess with my series if nobody's fighting.
I'll go to Japan and say, listen, we do, because like we have to see Derby again with like the Todorokis. Toga's like where everyone says goodbye to her. Like Uraraka still needs to have like that like chat with Deku again, or like
Yeah,
speaking with
yeah,
someone else like Froppy. Like there's so much to cover.
yeah. Y'all know what I just realized?
What?
Even if Shigaraki takes all the vestiges, Yoichi and All Might would still be there.
It's possible. Yeah,
They don't have a quirk to take.
yeah. Yeah, sure. Man, losing Banjo is gonna suck because he was the first vestige that awakened with Deku.
He's the cool uncle.
He is the cool uncle. I don't want him gone, but yeah, I kind of see him being taken.
And if there's
Honestly,
no way to get rid of the Yoichi vestige and the All for One vestige is still alive, then there is one more conversation we need to have.
Mm-hmm. Let me see.
Baby for one.
I was about to say, baby,
I
for
didn't
one, it
I didn't
looks.
know I didn't know Eri was a murderer, y'all. Like
You took out the quote unquote big bad of my
this
hero.
probably this would probably be like second degree though.
Hmm. Well, I'm gonna convict Eri.
This first degree homicide. She knew what she was doing. She was plotting.
well, I
Yo.
don't know if I got to say that earlier, but I've always kind of appreciated this part about Bakugo's character, where he holds himself to account with his own words. I thought even when he was like unlikable, I've always thought that that was a really cool thing about him.
Eddie,
That's
everybody,
brand new.
everybody, I want you to
Oh
go
my
look
god,
at Volk's Twitter.
what does
Oh
Vogue
no.
say?
I want you to go look at Volk's Twitter right now.
Also, I'm while we look at it, I'm just gonna say because someone remind me in the chat that like Siri is dead in the water now. That for one,
Well,
completely gone.
that for one was already dead.
Well, thanks for RTing the thread, Anarchy.
Look,
Oh,
I
one
didn't
second.
even have to read the thread. I just saw that and I was like, boom,
Oh,
boom.
the hydrogen bomb company.
Yes, it's beautiful.
Oh that yeah.
Three.
But anyway, what were you saying, Thomas?
He's
Oh, that for one is dead in the water, confirmed 100%. I do not want to see a single person on Twitter say it could come back. It's
What do you
gone.
mean, Thomas? That was the
No,
last
don't
ditch
do that to
effort.
me.
that was the last
To me?
effort.
No.
Yeah. What did
There's
you get?
also all for one giving Shigaraki the K. That's kind of
Yeah.
DOA now.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm
Hori, I
not gonna
love you.
lie. I think that might be dead. I think it might be dead. Unless that's the last ditch effort.
What? What? Like confirming it?
You're gonna take it back.
It's the last ditch effort. He was gonna be like,
Hey,
Deku, wait, I'm your son.
it'd be like
Also,
it'd be like the K is the quirk that gives Shigaraki so much agency in the vestige world, and he originally gave him that quirk. So taking it back gives him the authority.
Oh my.
He'll have to sacrifice Tomora's hatred for it, but it'll be worth it, and then it won't work. But
I'm also working on my weekly thread, but I just wanted to say that I'm like looking back, what I don't think
yeah,
people really appreciate how difficult it is to actually write a good mastermind villain. And what Horikoshi accomplishes with All for One is that he has his mastermind, but All for One does not actually invalidate or take away from any of the other villains in the series.
or
Like,
character.
he does not take credit for any of their for anything the other villains have done, actually. Like Shigaraki, Dabi, Toga, they all stand alone with proud accomplishments for the series.
They all
And
have their own agenda and they stick to it.
right, and yet All for One is still able to be a curse upon the heroes. Like it's actually really damn impressive the way the exchanges that he's able to have with both Deku, with Endeavor, with Bakugo. Like it's so well done. Like I'm with Volk, I tend to not like mastermind villains very much, In general, I'm still rereading Bleach, but I just don't care about Aizen. Like, I don't care how well thought out his plan was.
It's
He just
boring just
doesn't
to have somebody be like, I thought of all of this before. Your
like.
efforts are meaningless.
Aizen is just a smug face most of the time. I just cannot really get into his character, but All for One is able to keep you engaged like the entire time he is on screen. Honestly, like,
And then the manga should take notes. But
and
I'm
All,
not gonna.
somehow, and
all for one rides waves most of the time. It'll be like, well, this is happening, and I kind of thought this might have happened before. So I like he said it in one of the earlier chapters during the Aoyama Trader chapters. He said that he just has multiple plans for everything, and some plans don't even work, and that's
no,
okay.
he takes advantage of situations, but he's never necessarily the root cause of all of society's ills. But I mean, he's certainly the cause of many certain things, and has specific character, and obviously with All Might. Um, but like he each villain is able to have their own thing, and All for One doesn't step on that. And that is so difficult to write. Like, how many times do you see it in shonen, or honestly any media, where it's like you have this villain who is just misunderstood or whatever. It's like, oh, you were just manipulated by me the whole time. I'm the actual big bad, not you. And it's like you're put so the other characters don't like get held accountable for anything they do because it was always the cause of one guy. And it's like,
It was
that's not who All for One is.
it was almost like that, man.
Yeah, no, like honestly, I'm just really impressed. I was just going through and being like, yeah, these are all my favorite All for One moments. And I'm like, wow, he has his own legitimate moments that don't infringe on anyone else in the story. Like, I know people were nervous about Shigaraki, but Horikoshi obviously uh wasn't gonna do Shigaraki like that. So
He
yeah.
delivered he delivered on their dynamic. I'm not gonna lie, because it makes sense, bro. It makes sense with everything we've seen from All for One. It does not make sense for him to raise a successor. So he only really did that for his benefit in the end. But one of my favorite mastermind All for One moments recently is when he killed Stain. Because he
Yeah.
said, I was always waiting for you to try something. Because I seen that you weren't messing with me at Tartarus. He probably always had that quirk too.
That was good, and that was immediately useful as well. I really like that he turned around and used it after he stole it. It's like, okay, good. All for One is literally doing his thing. Like, great.
Yeah, I don't know why people thought he didn't steal it. Like he said he would. He had no reason not to, and then he used it in the most perfect way on All Might, the person Stain loves. Like that
Torture.
was
Oh, that's so twisted too.
my gosh.
Just
Another genius moment by him was the whole like aftermath of the first war. When him destroying the prison break was big brain moves that like when he took over Shiggy's body. Oh my god. He's like, no, we need to do this right now before they go to Tartarus and seal it up while they're at their
right.
and that caused all of this to happen.
No,
Yeah.
he said, you know what, everything is, I know we just had Makia run through and wreck all these places and everything's in chaos. It's not quite enough, is it? We're not quite there yet. So let's just jailbreak.
And then you got to think about it like this. He didn't even know that Shigaraki would still have control. He thought that Shigaraki would instantly be gone, like that he would be able to take over that body and do whatever he wanted. So the fact that he was still around for this long and he's not really like he's upset, but he's not really that upset that Shigaraki took control. He's just like, oh,
Yeah.
you're better than I expected. That's all, it's even better for me in the end.
They
Like,
both have this weird affection for each other. Like Shigaraki states it here. Well, he did kind of raise me up, And All for One is like, yeah, I did kind of raise you, and I'm impressed that you're doing this. So it's like we're like, yeah, screw you, like what you want actually, but I kind of like you.
yeah, that's the thing too. This chapter, the officials, like there was a change in translation that I'm like, I'm 50-50 on. I don't know if I like it. I don't know if I don't like it. But
Which one are you talking about?
It's when he talks about All for One being dead. He was
Oh
like,
yeah.
it's like, all because I didn't break that kid hard enough. That's my fault. In the scans, he said it was All for One's fault that he didn't kill Bakugo. And
So
I
you know
kind of,
what I like
I
about
kind
there
of
being two
preferred that.
translations?
I kind of preferred that one though because All for One was the one that killed Bakugo. Remember, he had that flash to Kudo, the second user. He seed Bakugo. He thought about Kudo, and then he striked him. So I had always like kind of given that to All for One. I'm like, yeah, All for One kind of freaked out in that moment, like panicked.
It
But
is
now,
weird
It was
Yeah.
because
half and half then.
it's
It was
like All for One and Shigaraki were literally melded together. So I feel like they both like personally took that personally when
That was
Bakugo
both their
survived.
kill.
I do feel like we're not giving a whole lot of ways for Kendra to enter the conversation.
I was about to
So,
say.
Oh,
Kendra.
oh,
Hey,
sorry.
Kendra.
I,
I
said, I tried too early. I was like Tiana because the profile picture, but then
roll out the red carpet.
Oh, no, you don't have to do all that. Hello, everyone.
Welcome
How
back.
you doing?
Merry
What's up,
Christmas.
Kendra?
Merry Christmas. I've missed you guys. I've
Aw.
been so busy and stuff.
Well, you got time for us today, so you know the floor is yours when you come in.
Thank
Oh,
you.
well, that's so sweet. Y'all are always so sweet to me. Yeah. Well, of course, I love the chapter. I kind of lost my mind ever since the leaks came out. I lost sleep. I was thinking about it the next day at work. I'm like, I can't be doing this. Horikoshi can't keep doing this to me.
Yeah,
It
it
was,
was one of those for me too.
it was one of those league nights. So it was a very satisfying end to AFO. I don't really care about what anybody else has to say about it. He went out the way he deserved, as like a whining baby. So it was great to see. Um, I love the whole conclusion to Bakugo's character arc. That was great. And yeah, I mean, I really like that we're finally going to start focusing on Izuku and Shigaraki. Finally, we've been waiting patiently for it. And man, Horikoshi ends the year out with him stealing Danger Sense. I was like, how did I not think that he would even do this like that? It was just phenomenal.
So I think we're all in agreement that rest in piss bozo, smoke that off
Yes.
one pack. But like
Yes.
genuinely, the level of pathetic he died at.
Mm-hmm.
I compare it to Envy from FMAB.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like that crying nature where he was like, poor me, look at me. Wah, and then poof into.
Also, so I've kind of been looking at like MHA 410 hashtag just to see what people are saying, just because I'm like, I know there's going to be controversy, and I never see a lot of the controversy because I got like 100+ words muted. But one of the things that I thought was funny is like I stumbled on a tweet where somebody was like, it's been a while since AFO tried to take over Shigaraki's body, supplant him as the final villain, but he's finally dead. Rest in piss, you piece of shit villain. I hated you, and you're dog shit, and
Oh,
da da da
gosh.
da. And I'm like, that catharsis
Yikes.
you're feeling over him dying is proof that he's a well-written character.
Yep.
Like
Yep.
you
Or
are
I don't
sitting there
succeeded.
having
Like
like
the only way that I would have been more satisfied by how he went out is if he still had that magnetic ball stuck to him and he got stuck to some brie and just could not get it off.
bro, I really wish that man at a ball had come into play.
I know.
Oh,
It's like when babies
just a
like
random little
have
thing.
cake
Huh? I'm
and
stuck
they
here.
fuss over
Damn.
it.
Yeah. Like that is the only way I would have been even more satisfied by this. So I just love this so much.
Like imagine if Toddler for one, so like he had been dropped down to like a one or like a 2-year-old or like 1.5-year-old. So he like goes to take a step and you can see the like the squish sound effect. And then he like falls forward. He's like looking at a switch trying to like pull it, and it's like,
I
yeah, no.
saw another funny tweet using the 410 like hashtag where it's like, damn, Bakugo really just wins fights against teenagers, against children.
Against kids, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, this is the best tweet I've seen.
I made a joke that like remember during the remedial course arc and then like Bakugo's proposed plan to deal with the kids was to string string the ringleader up and pelt him with rocks. I was
Mhm.
like, oh boy, Bakugo has achieved his series-long ambition of inflicting child abuse.
Good Lord.
He was looking
I-
for that opportunity.
Oh
He was
God,
like,
man.
damn, I got it now. Let's go.
So the one thing that I will say that's kind of like a nice touch on Horikoshi's part is that he was fine having Bakugo explode the face off of like a 10-year-old, but he was like, well, he'll just blow up the thing he tries to stab. I'm not gonna have one of my main heroes literally blow up a baby. That's too far.
Yeah.
Like he drew a tasteful line. He didn't have him go like, oh man, all for one, you're still here. But whew, glad that's done. Because I think, don't get me wrong, there's some people who probably would have really liked that, but I do think that's a good line to draw for your heroes. Like, does not blow up baby.
Oh,
It's a good line.
I will say that I've really surprised by myself that I come to like AFO's character so much over the last couple of chapters that I end up putting him in my top 20. I was like, wow, I never saw that happening. He just was that compelling.
yo, I thought that was going towards like he's in my top 5, top 10, top 20.
Nah, he's in the top 20. He can't touch top 5.
Wait,
No,
who?
that was
Who we
never
talking
gonna
about?
happen.
All for
But
one.
All for one?
Yeah.
Ooh,
the
I don't
thing
know
with
that.
All for
I was just so, I don't know, I was just so impressed by his backstory and just how really and truly fucked up he really was. I'm like, I kind of like you fucked up thing, you.
That's
So
because that's because, and this is interesting about a lot of MHA characters, but that's because All for One is a reflection of basically the entire story. Like,
yeah,
and that's true for a lot of other characters. Like, there's a lot of echoes going on between the characters. So it's like, okay, if I like this character, I kind of have to like that character too, because they're intertwined in this thematic mosaic, and it's so cool to engage with. So yeah,
I agree.
that definitely elevates All for One a bit, just by virtue of being in the story.
Hmm.
He is one of like he is one of the most thorough examples of like an overarching antagonist I've seen where he presides over the whole work while not really getting too much in the way of other characters.
Mhm.
I know that the amount of focus he has tends to get some people divided, but he had he especially in this last stretch, there was so much about him that just his all of his flaws, all the ways that he contrasted with all the different characters, and the way he was used to give everybody such an epic, some of the most epic final battles. Like him and Hawks were like duking it out there verbally for a while. It was like it was Hawks's manipulations against his for a little bit. It was
It was
like
a logical battle.
yeah,
Yeah, that was funny.
It was purely a battle of intellect between them rather than sheer power. I
That
really
was that was something I did not expect from this arc. Was Hawks and All for One like playing chess with each other?
I also
Yeah.
think like All for One gave us really interesting insights into the quirk system. Like his flashback, like with his mother, like it's really fascinating. And I feel like aside from Chizaki, like there's not really, and like Yoichi, like he was the only great like person to give us that, which I
Yeah,
appreciate.
I think I finally just understand how like the whole space works. Like it's been a question like almost since the series started. Like how does All for One and how does One for All work? Like if you rewind All Might, does he get all for, his quirk back? And it's like no, the quirk factors are independent entities. They're not directly affected by things like rewind, for example. They're tied to whoever is holding the quirks. So like, and it's consistent all the way through when you look at it like that. Like, and they are tied. I mean, there is physical ties. Like we know that Overhaul and Hawks, their quirk factors were damaged when damage was done to their body. So like All for One couldn't really engage with Overhaul's quirk because Overhaul's arms were gone. Like there was nothing for which Overhaul to activate his quirk anymore. And that would have been translated over to All for One. Similarly, Hawks' Fierce Wings were basically useless for All for
They're
One.
nubs.
Yeah, they're basically just nubs.
Yeah,
So
they're
it's very interesting how we were finally able to get those mechanics nailed down and how remarkably consistent that is. Like it doesn't feel like there are any plot holes in regards to how the quirks work. Uh, so I mean, just there's so much that I end up appreciating about Horikoshi's writing when I go through it. Obviously, All for One could have killed more people, I think. I think like what Hawks was right in his grasp. So I understand that people are like, oh, come on, why didn't you kill him?
I mean, we got Stain. Like
But
that was kind
well,
of
yeah.
just the makeup. And I also feel like even though it's not technically it, even though he's not the one killing, like Off One, Hori made me feel for Vestige Hawks. Like him going, I felt like, damn, that hit me somehow.
Yeah, no, Horikoshi still likes his characters to a fault, quote unquote. But
Mhm.
I'm not complaining. I'm glad that we still have most of basically all the cast around still.
Mhm.
So no, I really uh can't personally complain because I wasn't like invested in MHA for the grit or anything. I wanted to see the message Horikoshi is telling. So I'm looking forward to the roles that these characters will play after this battle is concluded.
Yeah, honestly, the action is a nice bonus, but the real draw to MHA is all of these character conclusions. And that's what really made this arc. Like the action has been great for the most part, but what I've really remembered about all of this are how characters you were talking about how, especially with villains and their counterparts, there's kind of this form of synthesis where they clash and then there's something else born out of it. I remember that kind of stuff much more. I remember how characters interact with each other and resolve to do things. I remember the ship the sorry. Remember the Todoroki family resolution. I remember Mina and Kirishima talking about and Kirishima saying that you've always been my hero. I remember stuff like I remember the big three wanting to reach graduation. I think what a lot of people don't focus on when it comes to like the weekly consumption culture is how things wrap up for the characters instead of okay, which punch and which technique was cooler than the other technique. Like that doesn't mean anything. What means something are character conclusions and how you write a way a character goes out, and all of these for the final arc have just been absolutely phenomenal. I've really loved all of them, and having followed this story for years, I'm very happy to see this is what's happening. Like even characters like All for One, no, he didn't have a cool death scene, but he had an absolutely epic one because it was just him being denied absolutely everything he wanted. And that was the most satisfying ending for him. And like there's an element of satisfaction here seeing characters approach the endings. It seems like they've kind of been fated to reach all along. Even if they don't get there in ways we necessarily expect. Yeah. I think I am gonna head out now. And I think that was a good final summation of my thoughts on the chapter.
Make sure to enjoy your Christmas Eve and Christmas Day.
Yeah, Merry Christmas,
this-
everybody. Love talking love talking shop with you as always. I'm just gonna head out and do some last minute Christmas preparations.
Mhm.
Enjoy your holidays.
If I'm
Of
honest, this went
course.
longer than I
Merry
expected.
Christmas,
So
Bob.
yeah, Merry
Likewise.
Christmas.
Thank you for coming.
Merry
Oh.
Christmas.
In fact, with that being said out loud, because this did go, because I was like, man, I'll make it longer and I'll invite people, but it's probably going to be like an hour.
And the time just flew by.
Yeah. So one, you guys probably have stuff that you should be doing. So we're gonna start going around the horn. But two, my daughter fell asleep, so I gotta make sure she gets to stay asleep. So let's start doing around the horn. Let's go with Tarnish. Let's get
All
your
right. Y'all know I'm always happy to see All For One get clowned on, and this chapter was possibly the final chapter of him getting clowned on. Seeing him as a literal baby is just crazy, bro. And then he can't even talk anymore. He's trying to talk shit, and it's just wah. Like, his final moments is just, I hate this, I hate this, I hate this. He kind of sounded like Shigaraki there a little bit, the kid. But yeah, all the way down to the fetus egg cell. Like Horikoshi really took it there. Like when this whole rewind thing started, I knew he was gonna rewind out of existence, but I thought it would be a little bit cooler. But he doesn't deserve anything cooler. So we're gonna do it the way it actually should be done, with him turning into a baby and disappearing. And this final moment, possibly with Bakugo and him raising his arm, it got me thinking about a lot of things. Like, I really do need to reread this arc, because low key, when Bakugo came back to life, you know what I'm saying? Like officially came back recently, it was hitting, but it wasn't really fully hitting because I couldn't get past what had happened. But once I reread now, I feel like it should hit a lot more to binge up to this point. Because now it feels like he earned to not be in the fight anymore against just, dying and then like being stitched up, where we didn't really know where his character would go after that. But he ended up fighting All For One, saving All Might, giving one last boost to Deku. This is what I wanted from him before he died. So the fact that I still ended up getting to this point, it's like, you know what? Maybe it was worth it in the end. And it gives the other heroes more of a better look at them, since they didn't just bring kids here to die. They were willing to die themselves to save them. And I'm always hyped for more Shiggy content. So we got Shigaraki presumably being the focus now, because we could always cut away because we still got other stuff to watch. But I like seeing Shiggy again. Hope to see more of him next chapter. Deku look cold as hell in that mask. He don't
Yes,
need the
sir.
he don't need the bunny ears, yo. He just need that mask, the smile mask. That was originally supposed to be a smile. I just want all y'all to remember that. But yeah, that's all I got.
And I did reread the entirety of this arc like a month or two ago. And honestly, like genuinely, I feel like when you reread it, because I think you were on stream the first time, like when that chapter dropped, and I was kind of like, I don't know how I feel about this, but I'm gonna wait till next week. And I guess if he's dead, he's dead. But I'm not exactly sold on it. And I don't exactly think that's the best use of his character. And I said that multiple times. I definitely feel even better reading that now than I had the first time through. Because before I was just kind of like, yeah. And now, like with everything, I definitely felt better. Like getting to see it all play out and being like, yeah, cool. Like some people won't like the surgery still, but I personally think that.
Yeah, I'm gonna be real with you. Another reason why I kind of just dropped it is because I honestly realized that shit like that happens all the time. There's always this last minute person nearby in anime that could do something to help the situation, and it's just pointless to act like my hero's the first one to do that. Like that's always happens. So it is what it is. There's always a character nearby that could do something at any point in time. And this one just so happened to be one who we knew could always go inside people's bodies. So
And I'm Horikoshi drags characters through hell, especially on the hero side, to get them success. And it made sense that if Bakugo's going to have a battle on this scale, that he went through a hell that deep. So, but Joseph.
Yeah, this was a hell of a chapter to end the year on, that's for sure. I mean, I think I said pretty much all you really have to say during this, but just thank you, Eri, for the wonderful Christmas present.
Seth.
Yo. So it's always been a pleasure to be here, and I just wanted to thank everyone for the opportunity to show up. I think this is the first year that I've been on the podcast. I'm just reminded about when, first starting out and how difficult to talk it was, just and how awkward I was. And sorry, thank you for putting up with me through that phase. But going into it now, I'm just really happy and thankful to be here. So anyway, in regards to the chapter itself, despite how straightforward it was, there's so much to talk about. Like when you have a character, multiple character resolutions. And yet this was also a setup chapter for the final fight, and it sets such an interesting tone. I think MHA is about to get very controversial as things end. I said this, I think, before when I came on, but if the start of the fight sets the tone for the rest of it, we could see. I mean, who knows what actually will end up happening to our beloved protagonist? So, um, with all that being said, I just wanted to praise Horikoshi's writing up until this point. I think All for One was handled very well, and I don't think he's fully out of the story either. Chekhov's gun being what it is, we're going to get like one last trick up his sleeve. However, if I'm honestly not particularly worried. I think with the way Horikoshi handles things, he's going to be able to deliver strong character moments no matter what the events are that unfold. And even though kind of like with Tarnish, how certain things didn't hit quite right the first time around, I think with age, this is gonna be one of the looked at as one of the best final arcs for Shonen Jump series. I really do think that the focus on character writing has been fantastic. I think you can criticize Horikoshi from a quote unquote power system standpoint. Like quirks interact in more of a rock paper scissors way uh than a strategic mind games kind of way a lot of the time. Sometimes that's different. But generally speaking, it's very situational, but that also makes it exciting. So um anyways, I'm kind of rambling at this point, but I've already said so much already. But my overall thoughts on the chapter is that it was a very great setup chapter while also being a great conclusive chapter. It just does a lot of work. So I'm very much looking forward to next year when we tackle the actual final fight in the series. So that'll be obviously very exciting, and I'm very happy to be here for it. So thanks again, everyone, for having me.
You for being here, Seth. And you weren't really awkward. Everybody's got to get their stream podcast legs in, Just
Seth was about to
the
make me
training.
cry with that beginning of the his speech.
I had
Man.
so much
Right?
jitters, like, geez. And
And I
my
knew you were
throat
gonna
would
be
like go completely dry, like partway through conversation, and my microphone on my phone sucked, and
Oh.
so many things.
see,
Uh,
but the
oh,
thing is
Sam,
that
I feel this. I feel this so much.
Yeah,
having your
same.
microphone be bad was actually kind of a good thing because it kind of gave you like a little shtick early where it was like, all
Yeah.
right, Seth's in the trunk of a car. We gotta roll with
I
it.
don't want this, but
And
okay.
it, but
Thank you
again, but
for
it
putting
also
up with
took
that.
something out of your hands, right? Like you didn't have
Yeah.
a say in your mic being funky at times randomly.
Mhm.
So in turn, you got to like whenever you had that clarity, it gave you the ability to just kind of be like, all right, I got this moment, my mic is working, I'm gonna get out these ideas that I have. And they were good ideas, and I knew they would be because that's why I would always like retweet the threads and stuff like that. Oh, my daughter's being Princess Fussy, but so
No.
real quick, Thomas, do your thoughts? I'm about to go pick up this
Hello.
little baby.
Okay, so I love this chapter. I don't like Horikoshi showing me Inko crying. I do not like that. Hori, you were an awful person for that.
Oh gosh.
Like I saw Tyler mention it on his Twitter that like he wants to like see Inko's reaction because obviously we got to see all of the parents' reaction. Not all of them, but obviously like the most important parents in the series, like Bakugo's mom and dad, and obviously you have Ray and Endeavor. Obviously, of course, Endeavor is an active fighter, and Ray jumped into the action. But I am really glad to see Inko watching Deku because, of course, that's her son, that's her baby boy. It is just upsetting to see her cry, but it is like kind of endearing at the same time. As for like the fight itself, I still think it's terrifying, like what Shigaraki said, like the fact that he can take out 378,000 square kilometers, which I'm pretty sure is all of Japan, and give it like a week, it'll be gone. Like not even just the surface, but like deep down below. He will quite literally just wipe Japan off the face of the map. And like there's a documentary of this guy who went from the bottom of Japan up to Hokkaido, and it took him like around 140 something days. But like because we know it'll take a week, that's how fast the K is. It's
That's
wild. Also seeing the fight with Shigaraki, like in the waves, like Deku going right through with a smash. It's such cool imagery. Um, and also the mask on Deku looks sick. This is great content. And
Mhm.
I kind of feel like I kind of do myself because for the longest time in the streams, I constantly said, when's the Deku fight? When are you giving us this Horikoshi? But what Horikoshi gave us instead is Danger Sense being snatched away or decayed. But I kind of feel like it's being taken away from him. So knowing that over the next few chapters, especially because we have it back in like 12 days, according to Viz, which is like a Friday. Knowing that we may get to see Float and Smokescreen like taken away from him, it's kind of sad, but also leads us to the Vested World confrontation, which I'm excited about. But yeah, overall, fantastic chapter. I also like seeing Vestinus with another like gene pun. Because I didn't get it either, but the stress is also just like worn out like clothes, apparently. So that flew over my head until Bakugo called that out. But yeah, I really loved it. Also, I've seen a lot of people bring back the Kata pace because of Bakugo's chance, like his give him hell. Which, by the way, if you're willing to like be mean to Caleb because Bakugo didn't have a do your best Izuku, come on, just man up, mature. But yeah, I love this chapter. I hope everyone enjoys their Christmas tomorrow. And if you, like I said in the tag in the server, like if you ever need someone to, talk to, we have the venting channel for a reason. So obviously reach out to people if you can, because Christmas is a great time of year, but it's also kind of a stressful type of year.
Could be a sad time of year as well.
Yes, absolutely. Also, it's Anaki's first, with his daughter, first Christmas, which is great.
Yeah,
Yay!
what you bought her, man? I don't want to.
Yeah,
We
we
got
want to
her
know.
some different Elmo stuff. Her gifts are over here. They're still wrapped up, but she's got some good Elmo.
Oh, yeah, Santa's coming.
Her gunkles.
Yeah,
Got
are y'all
her.
gonna make her like open it herself or some cute shit? Like,
No, we're not trying to force her to open it ourselves. East actually sent her a like a baby game controller, so it's like an Xbox
Aw,
controller, but it's like
Oh,
a baby
that's
toy.
cute.
that's so adorable.
Which is
That
perfect
is so
because she
cute.
tries to steal the Xbox controller from us all the time.
Oh.
So this is what it looked like.
Oh, look at that.
Oh,
Nice.
that Fisher
Don't worry,
Price.
I'm sending it back.
Yeah, it's the latest in our technology.
But yeah,
But
so
yeah.
she's got a good amount of stuff. She has this huge she got like a musical instrument mat. Actually, it's right here. It's all over the place.
Oh,
So
look at that.
That's so cute.
and she's got this really like soft Elmo blanket that's just like huge. So she's got some good stuff. Is that right? Yeah. Pretty girl.
But yeah, I kind of express how happy I am with like this chapter, especially with All for One's demise. Like, you know how long it's been like us wanting this and finally seeing it and seeing him go out in that fashion. It's so satisfying. And like something I have mentioned in the stream this stream like a couple hours ago is that I get why people are kind of upset with it because obviously we haven't gotten any other reactions. Like this chapter could have just been all about All for One. Like, because after like Deku's escapade in Deku Black, Aoyama, like everything to do with that, Nagant's like we could have gone those reactions, but at the same time, I'm not mad because it's also a fitting end to
Yeah,
all
like
for
the
one.
story moved on without him.
Yeah, which I'm kind of happy about, but I would have liked to see. That's why I'm excited for the epilogue because we're going to get people be like, yeah, Nutsack Face died, and everyone goes woohoo, and then they move on. But yeah, I love this chapter, and I can't wait for the next. But yeah, thank you for having me on this stream. It's been a pleasure, and I can't wait for next year. So yeah, stay safe. I like the stream, by the way.
Oh damn! I think I even forgot to do that.
Wow.
Yeah.
I just did it.
Kendra, you're the last guest.
Oh, of course. You always save me for last. All right. So, as usual, thank you guys for having me on. I really appreciate it. It's always fun talking with you guys. I love the chapter. Honestly, I just loved everything we got this year from My Hero. It's just I love this series so much. It's so entertaining. So if you see me on Twitter just trying to like defend it with my life, it just means that I'm trying to get people to understand that this series is really good. Horikoshi is a very good writer. He's done too much stuff in this story for people to be saying he can't write, and it really gets me heated. So I just I just loved everything about this chapter. AFO going out the way he did. Bakugo trying to do the All Might pose, which I thought was just cute. And yeah, I'm excited for next year. What's coming up with Deku and Shigaraki. I'm curious to know like how much we have left because we're literally at the final stretch for real this time since it ended that way. But I'm totally excited for that to come next year. And I want to wish you guys a Merry Christmas for tomorrow. Stay safe and drink water. And I'll see you guys later.
All right, I want to thank everybody who came through today. Kendra, Seth, Volk, Thomas.
That's me.
Wow, Joseph. Let me see. I got to make sure I get every single person because sometimes I mess up. Tarnish. You think I'm going to mess anybody else? I think I got everybody.
Did you say Volk? Because I mean he left already, but still.
I think I said Volk. Maybe I did say Volk, but Volk too.
Nah, you didn't say Valk. No, I'm joking.
See,
You did.
I can never get everybody. I always forget
I'll
at
be
least one
honest,
or two
I didn't
people.
even remember if you did or not.
Well, we did have
So-
a lot of people in the call.
Like
That's
it's
true.
just tradition where at least one or two people get forgotten if the stream gets above like 4 people. But I want to thank everybody that came through the chat. Smoke that fire, Kez. Can't believe you've done this. Cameron Bailey, Cedric. Especially thank you for those of you who sent super chats because Cedric, you were balling out crazy today. I appreciate that. Tanisha, the madman. Look, I don't want to go through the entire live chat. I can't. But I want you guys to enjoy Christmas. Make sure you're having a good weekend. If you aren't, like Thomas said, the Discord is there.
Yeah.
There will probably be people
Mhm.
popping in to different
Mhm.
VCs just because people
Yeah.
have jobs, do all kinds of other stuff.
Happy New Year! Happy New Year's too, y'all, because there's no chapter on that day. So
Yeah, there's no
Yeah.
chapter
Oh,
next
that's
week, and I'm
right.
definitely
Happy New
not.
Year's to you
Oh,
guys.
also we have a Christmas challenge. If you ever want to post like anything you took photos of, send it right in there. We'd love to see them.
only aesthetic, please. That's just me.
Yeah.
That's just me.
But yeah, and Kendra, way to handle being on the spot at the end. I purposely saved you for last just to make sure you could
She
get
killed
your
it.
time in the spotlight a little bit.
You know,
I'm
I
better
appreciate you, Aniki.
adapted. So yeah. But yeah, thanks everybody. I really enjoyed this chapter. It was very cathartic kind of seeing Bakugo kind of wrapped it up. AFO not reached that final level that he wanted to be at, which
Mhm.
let's be serious, he got dog walked when he was going against Deku anyway, so you don't really
Facts.
need that.
Like Ghost.
But I'm really looking forward to just kind of seeing where this battle between the two goes because especially with All for One being so prevalent, I don't see a way for Shigaraki to not have to constantly deal with that vestige without also giving up that power. So in turn, I really want to see this kind of progress back to kind of the battle that you likely would have thought we had at the beginning of the series, which is just Deku using Air Force and general one for all raw power versus Decay. and All for One just kind of getting completely torn apart, where even in the very final battle of the series, the quirk itself has been kind of scrapped, and it's just two people going at it. We don't get a lot of meathead fights, but I think having like the ideological situation, the conversations, and then reaching that point, and then Shigaraki's like, "Look, I don't have AFO in my head. I don't have any extra quirks in here. It's just me, Big Shiggy. You, me, one of us is gonna win, and that's gonna decide the fate of the world. Let's get it
I
popping."
heard our Mangaka loves Dragon Ball, so let's give him a Dragon Ball-esque fight.
Yeah, let's wrap that up. Let's get nice and clean with it.
Mhm.
And then I don't know what that means, love. I'm sorry. I don't know what that hand gesture meant. Okay. So yeah, appreciate everybody. Thank you. Have a wonderful Christmas.
Love
And we're gonna
y'all.
be out of here. All
Bye,
love.